And we back.
We're going to resume the testimony of Mr. Wiki.
Thank you, Your Honor. Now, when we broke, we talked about a process that you utilize as part of your analysis of video and the actions of officers on the scene. And we talked about how you do an overlay and then, for lack of a better word, is created into an animation which focuses on the important parts. Do you recall that part of the testimony we went over?
Yes, I do.
All right. Did you have prepared a video representation of the relevant times in surrounding Justice Smith's actions?
I did.
Your Honor, this has been shown, and I'm prepared to play it. Do we want to dim the lights? I don't know. We can. If at any time during this you want me to stop, just tell me to hit pause, but it's going to be up to you, okay?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Hey, Clarinetta, I'm back. Oh, my goodness. Whew.
Please pause.
Sean, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I'll go back 10 seconds, okay? Tell me when to hit pause.
Pause.
What is significant about that scene?
Earlier in my testimony, I talked about body position. That's pretty significant, especially for a fighter or somebody who understands a lot of the martial arts. His body position is on the right-hand side.
I'm sorry, whose position?
Excuse me again. It is Tyre Nichols' body position is laying on the ground with his leg tucked. That's significant because what he's doing is changing his body position, I believe, to set up to get off of the ground. He's going to use his body position with his knee down and his other leg to come up.
Trying to get up.
So to me, that was a significant point of contact. And the officer being Officer Smith, only has two hands on that handcuff. The problem with only two hands on a handcuff, one would think you could easily control an individual by holding onto the handcuffs, but the rest of the body is free to do what it wants to do, especially the lower part of the body where it's on the ground. You can use the ground as a push-off point. It's extremely easy. May be hard to see from some of you from your perspective, but from mine, it's very easy what he's doing. He meaning, I'm getting there, sir.
Okay.
He meaning Tyre Smith, excuse me, not you got me confused, Tyre Nichols is actually starting to come up off the ground. Okay?
Does, in that image, are you familiar with the term called an iron wrist lock?
I am.
And that is utilizing a handcuff for pain compliance.
It is, yes.
And did you see in the analysis of the video that Justin Smith was attempting an iron wrist lock?
Yes, I did.
How painful is an iron wrist lock on someone?
It's extremely painful because it is making contact with the radial nerve in the wrist. And it's extremely, extremely painful.
If in applying a pain compliance maneuver, such as
Hey,
iron wrist lock,
Stanford mom.
does an
Okay.
officer sense or an arresting officer
I'm
sense
listening to
that
what?
it's having some effect on the person that they're applying this pain to? They either verbalize something or what?
Yes, there's an actual feedback because the officer is in contact with the individual that they're applying the pressure on. You would expect to have some kind of a response from them, such as, ow, it hurts, or some kind of a grunting fashion, or
Oh, he was
yelling out,
grunting.
help, or heart, it hurts. Some of that type of a feedback to give you an idea that, hey, it's working. I can continue to
He
use
was
it.
saying,
Yeah.
unhandcuff me.
If
Sit me up.
the pain compliance techniques of the iron wrist lock,
Y'all doing
had
too
no
much.
effect
What
on
in the
Tyre Nichols,
world?
do you find that to be significant?
I do.
How so?
That immediately, from my experience in training, goes to the fact that I think that individual is probably on drugs, number one, or maybe be psychotic.
Did you say psychotic?
Psychotic.
They always want to make somebody on drugs. Ugh.
Can you play on the bottom bar of a minute 21? The time stamp is 20:34:57. Zwicky, what do you see both on video and on animation, Mr. Nichols' right arm doing?
I see Mr. Nichols' right arm being positioned in upward position at this point with Officer Smith, both hands on the handcuff.
Well, let me get to where we go back to live video. Let me ask you. Right there. Do you see Mr. Nichols' right arm? Get up as close as you want.
Excuse me if I
Turn these
can.
lights out.
I can't see from that position.
Off all the way. All the way. Do you see Mr. Nichols' right arm? It has handwriting on the sleeve coming down.
I see just above the wrist on the left arm.
Look for his right arm. If you know where his left arm is, do you know where his right arm is?
I can't see it. Oh, yes, I can. I'm sorry. Yes, I do see it from there. I was focusing on his other arm. His other arm is his right arm of Mr. Nichols is resting on the pavement. His hand is flat on the pavement.
Moving forward. body positions of parties, the weight, and where Justice Smith has the handcuffs. Do you have an opinion what Justice Smith is attempting to do?
It appears to me that the officer is trying to push the right arm forward from that position to move Mr. Nichols' body towards him and then forward to the ground. And there'll be a follow-up, I believe, just after these frames.
Is that the frame you're talking about?
Yes, sir.
Based upon the body positions of the parties and the movement, what is Justice Smith attempting to do with Mr. Nichols?
To me, it's pretty obvious he's trying to reposition Mr. Nichols forward, back onto the ground, onto his stomach.
What does proning someone out mean?
Means putting him down onto their stomach so that they can then rotate the arm behind the back and apply the handcuff and gain control over it.
Do you see that occurring in this image?
I see it as an attempt to do that, yes, sir.
Okay. Going forward. What is happening in this?
That's a completion, basically, what I was talking about earlier about the pressure on the arm. Mr. Nichols now is up on his knees and he's got his right hand placed on the ground, and it offers him a push-off point from the ground.
Is he coming up?
Where he could come up off of his feet and get into an erect position.
Is Tyre Nichols coming up off the ground on his own?
He is. He's not being pulled up. He's pulling himself up, or pushing himself up. Yes.
He's pushing himself up, but what is Justice Smith doing trying to avoid that?
He's trying to push him down.
Going forward?
That's correct.
No, I mean going forward. Okay. What is significant about, if anything, about Justice Smith's body weight, flexion, anything else? Anything significant about Justice Smith?
Yes. This particular frame, including the frame prior to this, shows that Officer Smith is pulling backwards in one direction to try to stop Mr. Nichols from moving forward. And his upper body of Mr. Nichols is trying to go into a direction to Mr. Nichols' left, which would indicate he's moving in that direction. And Officer Smith is trying to restrain him from going in that direction and controlling him.
Going forward. appears there that Mr. Nichols' right arm is free. Is that right?
Yes, it is. If you could pause.
You gotta tell me.
Pause. Yeah. And I think it also illustrates if you look at Mr. Nichols' foot motion, that he is in motion. And the previous scenes that you just saw as well, if you were to look at the officer's feet, Officer Smith, Officer Bean, they're all in motion. There's no indication in my mind, looking at those particular frames, that Mr. Nichols was standing in one position and being held motionless so that he could be hit. I think that was the critical point to show that this happened so fast and it was continual in motion that there was no opportunity for a stop and pause and hold somebody into a fixed position so they could be hit.
Going forwards. Is there anything significant about the body position of both Mr. Nichols and Justin Smith in that image?
Well, it's clear to me, Justin Smith's feet are spread wide. He's trying to stop Mr. Nichols' motion from walking forward as Officer Smith is holding onto his arm.
From the time the handcuff was placed on the left wrist, did Justin Smith ever let go of the left handcuff?
I did not see any, no.
Could he or should he let go of that handcuff?
No, he shouldn't, number one. I didn't see it. I don't think he ever released his hold.
Yeah, I'm not
Period.
suggesting. Go ahead.
Yeah.
What
And
would
he,
happen
and
if
he
he let
shouldn't.
go of it?
And he shouldn't, because it could be a dangerous weapon for him. It
How
is
so?
a dangerous weapon.
How
If
so?
you get hit, an officer can be severely injured and even killed with a loose handcuff. Officers are trained in the academy, and I've trained officers over the last 50 years doing that. Do not let go of that handcuff. Hold on to it for your dear life.
Going forward.
Hey, Scott.
Mr. Dwicky, from that position, do you have an explanation for the jury why it is that Justin is not placing that left hand behind Nichols' back for handcuffing?
The only answer I can give to that, frankly, I don't know specifically, but that he can't. I mean, to me, it's pretty obvious. He's been holding on to that left arm of Mr. Nichols, and he's tried to get it behind his back, and he can't. And I can surely demonstrate to anybody that if I don't want you to put my arm behind my back, you're not going to do it.
Going forward?
Y'all listen. Trump just did an executive order giving police permission to kill. So all that resisting arrest and stuff with the police, they're gonna be able to shoot you and get away with it. Beat you and get away with it.
All right, Mr. Zwicky. That's the end of the video things, but I have a few questions for you. When we talk about physiological human factors that police officers in critical incidents suffer from, you went through the list of different things that officers in critical incidents suffer from. Could you go through those again for me, please, and tell me what they are?
Hold on, y'all.
You-
Hold on.
Tunnel vision,
Thank
number
you.
one we talked about.
Let's talk about tunnel vision
Right.
first.
Okay.
What is tunnel vision?
Well, tunnel vision simply put is,
Oh, he
whenever you
kills me
focus on
asking
something
people.
and you focus on something closely, as an example, my phone. If I look at my phone in front of me and I look at all of you, I can see you. But if I look down at my phone, there's no way I can tell you where you are or what you're doing if I'm looking down at this phone. And if you can imagine if an officer's in a critical situation, and we use the term fight or flight, where the adrenaline starts flowing in your body, and you're focused on one individual you're trying to get handcuffs on, who has not been searched, and you've got chemical agents in your face, there's no way you're going to see what somebody else is doing because your focus is so intense on it. And another simple way to explain that is, and it happens to all of us, if you're commuting all the time and you go down a regular street all the time, and if you're talking on the phone or you get distracted and you miss your cutoff or your street, it's happened to me quite a few times. You go, oh my goodness, I just passed the cutoff. And that's a good example of your focus is on something else and you don't see it. I mean, that's a simple way of doing it. And not only that, I think we heard in our testimony with Officer Mills, he even said that he didn't hear certain things when he was at the scene, but he did hear them in a audio tape that was replayed back to him in court. I think all those are examples of what that is, where you get so much focus on too narrow away from what we're normally adjusted to. Under normal conditions, we would say that right now I've got full, almost, you can't say 360, 180 degrees around. But suddenly, what happens in a critical situation, the focus then narrows, and scientists have told us that it gets down to about 2 degrees. And when you think about it, 2 degrees is about like this. I couldn't tell you what the judge is doing right now because my vision has been blocked. But suddenly if I got something in my eyes, or I'm fighting somebody that's got OC in my face, I get about like this, and I'm not going to be able to see.
What about if you wore glasses? Does that make it worse?
Well, fortunately, I can still see a little bit when my glasses are off. But when you've got OC, and I've had it myself just recently, I can't see. It's all blurry and it hurts my eyes.
We talked about Mills' earlier testimony that he could not recall until he had watched the video later certain things had been said on the scene. Is that an example of what? Is that called auditory what?
Exclusion, basically, or narrowing as well. It's the brain that basically just shuts down your hearing. It's a protective mechanism. I know occurs because I've experienced, other officers have experienced it. I've interviewed probably over 100 police officers during my tenure in critical incidents of what they heard, what they saw. They were all affected by those phenomena.
The example of the field of vision going down to 2 degrees and then even getting narrower that you did with your hands.
Yes, sir.
When you're in a critical incident and you're focused, let's say, on a set of handcuffs. Based upon that evidence, based upon what your opinions are, did Justice Smith have any capability of seeing what was going on around him?
I do not believe so, no.
How would he know that?
All right, state.
Oh, sorry, no questions. I apologize.
Thank you, Judge. Good afternoon, Mr. Zawicki.
Good afternoon.
You talked in the very beginning about being, having testified as a friend of the court.
Yes, ma'am.
He sure
What
did.
year did you say that was?
I think it was in 1986, 87.
And you've just done it that one time?
Yes, ma'am.
In 87?
Either year, one of the two.
86,
It's been quite a long time, yes, sir.
And to be clear, you're not here testifying as a friend of the court?
No.
You're
But I am
here,
friendly to the court, but I'm not testifying.
you're here testifying.
Yes,
on
you
behalf
are.
of Justin Smith, correct?
That's correct.
Who is paying you?
The PORAC, I believe,
What is that?
it's a peace officers organization that these officers are a member of, and they're paying for his legal defense, their legal defense.
You testified at the federal trial,
I did.
and now you're testifying here.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you get paid by the hour, by the case, by the trial? How does that work?
It depends on what kind of work that I do.
In this case,
In this case, I'll be paid for testifying today.
What you mean a friend to the
Traveling from
court?
Idaho, California to here.
do you get paid for every day you've been sitting in this courtroom watching the trial?
Not that I'm aware of.
Do you get paid for your time reviewing the file?
Yes.
For this particular case?
Yes.
No,
all
I've
my
already
questions will be
reviewed it.
about this
No.
case. I'm sorry, sir.
No, I have not.
You didn't get paid for reviewing the file?
No, ma'am, I did not.
Tell
So
me
you're
what
a
all
friend
you
of the
reviewed,
court.
and you mentioned a little bit in the beginning. What all did you review?
Well, I would have to list, I don't have everything in front of me, but all of the discovery from the state and the federal and all of the video evidence as well.
When was the last time you were actually an officer, law enforcement? Because now you're a professional witness, would that be fair to say?
I do that on the side as a professional consultant, yes, ma'am.
So when was the last time you were an officer?
Last time was 2011.
You never worked for MPD, Memphis Police Department?
Sure did not, no.
You ever worked in the state of Tennessee?
No, I did not.
I'm going to play you some video that you have, I'm sure, seen before in all of your review. And this is going to be just the very beginning of Hemp Hill's body-worn camera. This is going to be what we refer to generally as the initial stop or the first scene. Are you familiar with that video?
Yes, I am.
I got just a moment to cue that up. Playing the Hemp Hill's body-worn camera from the beginning. We're just going to go through sort of the stop, and then I'll ask you a few questions.
Certainly.
I didn't do anything. Oh my God. Oh. I'm on the ground. You hear him say, I'm on the ground. Oh my God. See, now I don't believe none of that. I think some of that stuff is... Oh man, this audio is so much more clearer. Oh my God, in the sound. Oh my God. Oh my God.
You've seen that video before, Mr. Zawicki.
I've seen that one, yes.
Would you agree with me that's a pretty chaotic stop?
chaotic? I would say it is, yes.
Would you agree with me that there are at least 3 officers on that scene? Yes or no?
But he a
Yes.
cop.
Do
He
you
a
know the
former
names of those
cop.
officers?
I think so, yes.
Would you agree with me it's Hemphill, Martin, and Haley?
Yes,
Tyre Nichols, our victim in this case, is the person they're encountering.
yes,
Would you agree with me that all 3 of those officers are simultaneously giving commands to Tyre?
Yes.
yes. Sounds like it.
Yeah. So how
Is there any way possible
uh
for Tyre to follow all of the commands that are being given at once?
no.
I couldn't tell you. I can't look into his mind whether or not he would respond.
Oh,
or
well,
not.
you done speculated everything
Is that
else.
best policy and practice?
No, it's never. the
Oh
best
my God,
policy, but
he
it
has
does happen,
speculated
unfortunately, in
everything
chaotic situations.
else.
What's better?
I thought I just testified to that. It's always better.
So
to
he's a
have
good
one
old boy.
person do it. But things change as they rapidly evolve, and other officers do get involved.
So he was one of them.
You've testified you're familiar with the video as well as all the discovery in the case.
Mm.
In the beginning, going to the second scene, initially where Officer Smith and Bean have contact with the victim, and right about the time Martin comes in for that first soccer kick, you've called it. At that time, if Defendant Smith has described himself as holding Tyre down, would you agree with that statement?
Dang.
He was attempting to hold him down. When you define what is down, he was on his right-hand side or
Oh,
left-hand
wow.
side.
Now
or on his
he
back at times,
now he
but
have a
that's
hard
the
time
point.
understanding. And
Your Honor, that's the second time. You've got to give the witness a chance to answer before the next one.
I apologize. Go ahead, Mr. Swift.
That's
I
right.
apologize.
But at the time that the kick was made, it's hard to tell whose hands were on who. So I couldn't tell you specifically if it was Officer Bean or if it was Officer Smith doing that.
Did you, in your review of the video, you heard Smith say hit him?
Do I remember in the video that
Oh.
Smith said hit him? I don't remember reviewing that. I remember hearing it in testimony that somebody said he said it.
play it
But I
back.
couldn't make out it was his voice.
In all your 100 times reviewing the video, you never heard Smith say hit him?
I
Your Honor,
didn't.
that Mr. Kirkbride testimony, he said that he didn't recognize the voice of Smith.
I'll allow him to answer the question if he can answer it, and he can.
Yeah.
You testified on direct that he knew the voices and was very familiar with Defendant Smith, which is why I asked the question.
Hmm.
Defendant Smith said that after the punches from Martin, he should have intervened. I'm going to talk a little bit about duty to intervene. You agree that police officers have a duty to intervene when they see excessive force, correct?
I'm not clear on what you said. Who said? Clarify
I'll
that.
back it up.
Please.
You agree with me that officers have a duty to intervene when other officers are using excessive force?
Legally, they do. Yeah, absolutely.
And if Officer Smith said
Legally, they
that
do.
after those punches from Martin, he had a duty to
Let me
intervene,
approach.
Ah! She was finna tag that ass, wasn't? Okay, so while listen, y'all, I have hit the like button. Thank you, Judge, because now they don't want to know. Yeah, they don't know. Now they don't know. Okay, y'all, it makes no sense that 100 and some of y'all, of y'all come in and didn't hit the like button. Please hit the like button. I would greatly. Or you can send a cash app, $AUNTEAFEE. Yeah, because in a minute, I'm going to have to hold my device. Because, you know, it's out of juice. Support the platform. Greatly appreciated. Thanks in advance. Oh, they going at it. He didn't like that. But I can say this, he definitely have a crooked cop mentality. Like he okay with the excessive force. He okay, you know. Well, you know, it happens sometimes. You have to, yeah. I can't say what he could hear. You know, I don't know if he could understand all the different commands at one time. Yeah, right. uh, out of these three, he gonna get the less time. He gonna get the most time. He done already been in there the longest, in there making friends. Oh, my battery is very low. See there? Oh, y'all need to come on, hit the like button. Well, none of this worth it, man. Oh, my God. What you say? But was just sharper than a pair of jean grandpa iron with cornstarch and water. Woo, cornstarch and water, baby. He wasn't going to be able to move at all. You heard me? They was going to stand up by themselves. Whoo. Yes, indeed. Then he started playing dumb. Well, I don't know. Well, how would I know? Oh, mm-mm. Mm. That's how they play in our face. He's one of them good old boys. He should have complied. He should have put his hands behind his back. He made him run. Sharper than that crease, baby. Huh? Ha! Stand up, pop, hop out them bad babies, and they still standing up. What? Woo! Mm-mm. Baby. All I'ma say, in Memphis, they trying to make a lot of stuff federal. We went over there last night. And Trump just signed an executive order that they can do whatever, because it's finna get ugly. And he he don't want them to be held accountable at all. And he want the military. I heard today he want our military to come in the country that we live in and fight us.
About it. The last couple questions specifically referenced things that Mr. Smith may have said. There has not been any testimony of what Mr. Smith has said, so I'm going to strike those questions. Any answers that you may have heard in response to those questions, I'm also going to have you strike those responses, as that individual has not
He
testified.
finally won one.
So if you have anything in your notes, you are to disregard those from your notes, and those cannot be used later on in your deliberations. All right, State, you can proceed.
Thank you, Judge. In your review of the videos, is it your position that Justin Smith deployed pepper spray on this night?
I don't know if he actually, when you say deployed, did he take it out and have it in his hand? Yes. I didn't see through the review of the video that was any discharge from that particular canister. That's all I could really testify to.
At what point did you see that in the video?
Well, I couldn't, from memory, tell you exactly
Ah.
what the number was, exactly what it would have been prior to Officer Mills actually striking Mr. Nichols with his baton.
We mentioned briefly that officers would have a duty to intervene if another officer used excessive force in their presence, correct?
That's correct. There are conditions, obviously, when that would occur, or how that would occur.
Officers would also have, you would agree with me, officers have a basic level of medical training to give them a certain amount of medical care on scene.
Yeah, when you refer to basic, I mean, that's pretty basic what a regular officer on the street or patrol officer would have.
They also have a duty to provide what level of care they can to someone who needs that care. Would you agree with that?
Based on their experience and basically what their knowledge is.
When we were watching that sort of what I'll call animated video, you made that?
I didn't make it. I assisted in the making of that, yes.
Who paid for that to be done?
It wasn't me, it was somebody else. I have no idea.
Oh my God. Is he lying on the oath?
Animation, well, cool, sort of turns the whole scene into a vacuum, right? We're only seeing Justin Smith and Tyre Nichols, right?
Well, it's individualized, that's correct. It does not include everybody because you could not see everybody in that animation and get it programmed to do what we were trying to do is show
Who
what
is we?
Justin Smith was doing.
Y'all, please get the likes up, please.
Bean was on the scene,
Yes,
and Mark,
yes.
all actively participating.
That ain't who hired him.
When you testified about what's it called, an iron wrist lock? What's an iron wrist lock?
It's not my term, it's MPD's term. It apparently is a technique where the handcuff is.
How he know?
encircled
He
on the
never.
wrist,
He
and then
said he
as the
never worked for
handcuff is
MPD.
pressed against the hand, pressure is applied, especially with a double lock, or they call a hinged cuff. You use the frame of the handcuff to press up against the wrist bone and the nerve ending, either on the upper part or lower part of the wrist.
And you said it's not your term, it's an MPD term. You found that term in the Memphis Police Department training materials?
I believe I reviewed that in, I believe it was Officer Wright's testimony in federal court about.
Oh, he followed it in
type of
federal
technique.
court
I
too?
Don't train that, but they do.
It's not a technique you're familiar with personally.
No, I don't use that technique. I use other techniques.
And how are you able to determine that that was happening in this particular situation? How do you know that Justin Smith was employing that tactic?
Well, basically, I know what it looks like when you do it. If I were to demonstrate, I could do that easily for you or anyone else. But I don't know how much pressure was applied.
Wow. Y'all
But
see
it was
this?
given in a direction with a handcuff.
Y'all
when
see
you place
this?
it on the upper part of the hinge. There's only one way that handcuff can go once it's on the wrist. When you tilt that handcuff on the wrist, that's a pressure control.
I believe you testified earlier that you would expect a reaction of scream, a shout, an ow, something like that.
Oh, absolutely, I would.
And if in the video we hear Tyree screaming and moaning, that would be consistent with what you would expect, correct?
Not at that particular time. If it happened that time, I would expect it. But I think what I saw on the video was not at that particular time.
And you have extensive qualifications. We went over those earlier. You're not a doctor, are you, Mr. Sawicki?
No, I'm not.
Medical doctor.
No, I'm not.
Did you testify that if Mr. Nichols didn't respond to that iron wrist lock, which you don't teach, that you're not familiar with, but you listened
And y'all didn't use.
in some federal testimony, that if he didn't respond to that, he would be psychotic?
Yes, Your Honor, mischaracterized the testimony.
He said he would be on drugs.
Two alternatives to why pain compliance did not work. One was psychotic, one was narcotics. Mischaracterized the testimony. Objection.
I'll allow you to ask the question.
Yeah, no, I testified earlier, if I recall. It would, in my mind, based on my experience, because I've dealt with people in similar circumstances, is if they didn't feel pain administered by either a handcuff or by a baton being struck as hard as it was against the radial nerve of an arm, that I would expect to see some pain. It would either be somebody was high on drugs, probably a narcotic, or secondly, they could be psychotic. They could have some mental problems. Those are the two conditions that would quickly enter my mind.
Psychotic.
Not that I'm making a diagnosis, but that's just what I would speculate that might be occurring.
In that, again, in that animated video, you talked a lot about how Justin Smith had the cuff on one wrist, left wrist if I'm correct, and he couldn't let go of that. And I think you testified he never let go of that, is that right?
Once the handcuff was on, that's correct. From my understanding, from what I saw in the videos, that's correct.
And he can't let go of that because it's tell us again why?
Because it's a dangerous weapon.
And so he should hold on to that even if his partner is beating the guy to death.
Beating him to death?
He should still hold on to that left wrist.
Well, if he's beating him to death and the officer can see he's beating him to death, and it would be his responsibility to try to stop that, yes.
Duty to intervene.
Correct, he has a duty for that.
I'm gonna pull up the video you've seen countless times. I'm gonna play for a little bit and then ask you a few questions. Just the beginning of the full cam video. Pause it. 2034-14. Is that the kick we've referred to numerous times already during your testimony as the first kick, the soccer kick?
Yes, ma'am.
Would you agree with me that that's excessive force?
Yes, ma'am.
Would you agree with me that requires a duty to intervene?
If the officer saw it, absolutely it would be.
Gonna press play now. Pause it. 2034-28. That's the second kick by Officer Martin while Officers Bean and Smith were holding Tyre Nichols. Would you agree with me that second kick is excessive force?
Absolutely it would be. If the officer saw it, would have a duty to report.
Thank you, Mr. Zwicky. I'm going to continue playing the video. Pause it. 2035-15. Did you just see that punch to the head by Martin?
I saw a punch. I can't tell you where it was landed because it's not
Oh
clear
my
enough. It's
God.
grainy.
Oh my
But I
God.
did see the punch, yes, ma'am.
I
Do you agree
cannot
that
with
punch
him.
is excessive force?
Yes.
And if officers saw it, would that require a duty to intervene?
If the officer saw it and
Just yes. Her question didn't change.
Like,
Yes. She said if an officer saw it.
did you see another punch there?
I did,
You agree with me that is excessive force?
absolutely.
And again, if officers saw that punch, that would require a duty to intervene.
If they saw it, yes.
Looking back at the video, see that punch, 20, 35, 25?
I did.
Same questions, Mr. Zawicki.
Same answer, yes, ma'am.
Excessive force, duty to intervene.
That's correct.
Press play. Do you see that punch?
I did.
Same answer?
Same answer.
Do you see that punch?
Stop
Sorry,
your,
I looked away.
stop you from lying.
Are you aware that there's another punch right after that one to the head?
There was to the head region? Yes, that's all I could see.
You
And it,
agree that's excessive force?
yes,
Send their asses up under the jail.
Go back to the first kick and ask you an additional question about that one.
sure.
I'm going to change videos actually. Going to play the poll cam video with the audio from Officer Bean's body worn camera.
Okay.
Hey, Willie, you still here? Oh,
Pause at 20, 34, 16. Again, that was that first kick, the soccer kick, as we've referred to it, Officer Martin.
Oh, my goodness. Hold on.
Holding Tyre Nichols down. Did I understand your testimony on direct to be that after that kick, you described Tyre Nichols' movements as actively resisting?
After the kick, at what point?
After the kick?
At what point?
The movements he's making.
He's still resisting. Absolutely, he's not putting his hands behind.
Is he
The officers
resisting?
aren't just simply yelling to give me your hands when his hands are up, but he's trying to get him behind his back, and he's flipping from one side to the other.
I told y'all
That
he
is
was
active
okay with the
resistance, yes.
abuse.
Or is he trying to survive?
I can't get into his mind or yours. At that particular
Oh.
point, he's still resisting. He's not complying with the officer.
closet 2034-37. Your testimony is that right now Tyre Nichols is still actively resisting,
Absolutely.
not just trying to survive those kicks to the head.
I'm telling you, it's active resistance, yes.
Yeah, he used that force, y'all. He's okay with that.
Is it your testimony when we see Tyre Nichols' body moving here from the force of the punch to the head, the excessive force punch, which we've already discussed, that that's him still actively resisting?
Yes, he is.
An officer just ran onto the scene. Could you hear what he said?
No, I didn't pay much attention to what he said.
Beat that man's ass. Did you hear that?
Yes.
You did.
No, I heard what you just said.
I said beat that man's ass. Did you hear that or not?
I wasn't listening, didn't hear that, no, ma'am.
We'll back it
But I
up.
heard what you said.
Hey,
Oh, wow. Baby.
Did you hear it that time?
I did.
Did you see the officer run into the scene
I
as
did.
that was said?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you know that to be Officer Haley?
Yes.
Did you see the kick he administered after saying that?
I saw him kicking, but I could not see where he was kicking.
But you saw him kicking.
Yes,
The
ma'am, I
question
did.
was, did you see him kicking?
In my opinion, it would be, yes.
And again, anyone who saw that kick, that requires a duty to intervene.
Yes, if they saw it.
Did you see that kick from Officer Martin?
I did.
Again, does that kick constitute excessive force?
Yes, it would be the same answer.
Duty to intervene.
Yes, if they saw it.
Just a moment, Your Honor.
Yes, ma'am.
You have a problem with being truthful.
That's right.
I didn't think you
Mrs. Wiki, I'm going to just go in the order in which my colleague asked questions. You had stated to me on direct that you were being paid, and I think you said like the lawyers and like everybody else.
Yes, sir.
But then you were asked on cross-examination, who paid for the week you've been here in court? And I I was surprised to hear you say that you've not been paid.
I have not been paid for this week in court.
Well, is there work that you've done on this file that you haven't been paid for?
Yes.
Okay. Then explain to us capitalist pigs why it is that you would work and not be paid. It's not because I'm refusing to pay you or Poor Act's refusing.
Your Honor, may we approach?
All right.
Mm-hmm.
leave out the capitalist pig comment. Explain to this jury why it is you, with 50 years of experience, have not been paid.
Because I haven't asked to be paid.
Why
Yeah,
is that?
cause you want these cops to
Because,
get off.
My testimony to.
Cause you
educate the
want them to
jury
get off,
on what I believe
and you want to be
is
able
the
to
truth
add to it.
about this case is more important than money in my pocket.
He working for them for free. He a former cop,
Had lawyers come to you and say, hey, I want to hire you, to testify
and he
on my
and
case.
old girl busted him.
Have you refused to work for lawyers or people or cops?
Yes, sir.
No man, you
And
talking
what is
about?
your standard for
Did you
refusing
catch the
to
first part
work
earlier today?
as an expert in your field?
One, I'm not going to lie for the attorney that hired me.
Oh, so
I'm
he
not
was
gonna give
hired.
Testimony for the attorney as to what the attorney wants me to testify to. I can only testify to what I believe the truth is, based on my review.
That hired him. Y'all see him
I
get
think
caught.
That's fair. And if I believe that the officer did something wrong in a case, which I've done, most recently in Texas, where I think that the individual committed a crime, I would not take the case, because if I went on stand, I would testify to that.
You were asked about the iron wrist lock and then about how you MPD trains it and you did not train it. You were asked a series of questions about that. Do you remember that?
I do.
He got busted.
During Mr. Mills's testimony,
Yes, sir, I was.
were you present when I asked Mr. Mills what an iron wrist lock was and what the effects of an iron wrist lock were?
Yes.
And what did he testify to?
I don't recall specifically, but I remember he testified about the wrist lock.
Did he testify that it was a pain compliance technique taught at the MPD Academy?
And the Jackson lead.
I'll withdraw it.
Yeah,
I'm going to ask it a different way.
yes.
What did Officer Mills testify regarding the iron wrist lock?
That it was taught in the MPD Academy.
Without going back to the video, you were shown what Ms. Headley referred to as the first soccer kick and then the second soccer kick.
Yes.
Based upon the time and based where Mills was, the OC spray, had it been sprayed by Mills at that time?
Yes.
That's all I have,
He got busted.
No, Your Honor, no questions on the record. So Leffler? No questions. All right, stay. All right, sir, those are all the questions we have for you.
Where Hagman?
Thank you, Your Honor.
Welcome to stay, or you're free to go.
Thank you, sir.
Hagman must be gone. God, dog.
Your Honor, may he be excused. Now, have just 10 seconds to get to this equipment.
Dang, he got busted.
Vance, you ready with your next witness?
Yes, Your Honor. We call Mr. John Tisdale.
Your Honor, for purposes of the record, I believe all lawyers will agree, including Mr. Berry, that we have had to take some people out of order, and switching is my.
So you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you give today will be the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God? I do. All right, please have a seat. Thank you.
Yeah, I see you on this, sir. Mr. Tisdale, please state your full name and spell it for the record.
It's John A. Tisdale. It's Tisdale.
Mr. Tisdale, have you worked in law enforcement?
Oh, yes.
How many years have you worked in law enforcement?
Around 36, 37.
And would your first years in law enforcement been around 1977?
Yes, sir. That'd be correct at the University of
Y'all, hold on. I have to set this down. Hold on. Can y'all still hear?
Police force there to state.
And have you gone through the academy in Mississippi?
Can y'all still hear?
The Mississippi Academy, and I also went through the FBI National Academy.
And have you served in different capacities in law enforcement?
Yes, sir. I served from being a rookie patrolman all the way up to serving as chief in 2 different occasions.
Were you chief once out in Arizona?
Yes, sir. A little town called Parker.
And were you chief ever in Tennessee?
Yes, sir. Gallatin, Tennessee.
And were you chief, how many years roughly were you chief out in Gallatin?
About 9.
And did you retire as chief of Gallatin Police
Yes, I
Department?
did.
Have you ever had any role in what's called post-certification?
Yes, sir.
What did you do in regards to post-certification in the state of Tennessee?
Well, I had to.
Thank you, Majesty.
I've taught at several academies and some college classes I taught for a while for organization.
Did you ever do any work with the state of Mississippi in their academy?
I did.
What did you do in their academy?
I taught some classes in their academy as a guest instructor.
Were you was called an instructor?
Yes.
Have you ever presented in any seminars?
Oh, yes.
And that's been throughout the last 37 years, I think.
Yes, sir. Just, different times throughout my career.
And you've done the same in Mississippi as well as in Tennessee?
Yes, sir.
And have you presented places nationally as well?
Nationally, yes, sir.
Have you taught any online courses?
Yes, sir. I taught for about 3 years of online courses for a university out of Denver.
You honor my approach.
Thank you. All right.
Just take a look at that document I just handed you.
Yes, sir.
Is it your, what's referred to as CV or resume?
Yes, sir, it is.
And look at the pages to that.
It's the one I produced.
And in addition to having presented, having instructed, having taught at different academies, are you certified as any sort of martial arts or self-defense instruction?
Yes, sir. I took Taekwondo for quite a few years, but I have a certification in Krav Maga, which is a Jewish form of martial arts.
And have you instructed in that?
I did at Gallatin. I taught our police department as well as a few guests that were there from other departments.
Have you ever been called upon to give what's called sworn testimony?
Oh, yes.
And I think according to your resume, it seems that you've been admitted into the Southern District Federal Court.
Yes, sir.
You've been allowed to testify in the Western District of Tennessee as an expert,
Yes, sir.
various state courts.
Yes, sir.
I see at least some 60 times you've rendered sworn testimony, correct? Have you been offered or attended as what's called an expert?
Yes, sir.
An expert in the areas of police policy?
Yes, sir.
What about use of force?
Yes, sir.
In this
Yeah.
particular case, did you have an opportunity as a part of the documents that you were given to review the policy regarding the use of force continuum taught and instructed by the City of Memphis Police Department?
Yes, I have.
And have you also in the past been given or given instruction or participated in the writing of instructions regarding policy and particularly use of force?
Yes, sir.
Have you ever been denied the ability to testify in any forum as an expert in use of force or police policy?
No, sir. I've been limited in a couple of cases where there were some topics they wouldn't let us bring up. That was it.
But you were never stricken as an expert by any court or any forum?
No, sir.
I attended the CV. Your Honor, at this time, I'd like to offer to this court Mr. Tisdale as an expert in the areas of police policy and use of force.
Any objection?
No objection, so Mr. Tisdale being considered as the expert, Your Honor.
All right. We'll go ahead and show him enter as an expert in police policy and use of force.
Yeah, proceed, Your Honor. Back in the spring of 2023, so just about 2 years ago,
Yes,
I placed a call to you regarding this case.
Yes, sir.
Remember that?
yes, sir.
And at that time, I asked you if you'd be willing to review a file to possibly serve as an expert in that case in use of force.
Yes,
Now, on the front end of a case, if somebody sends you a file, such as myself, and our firm is usually before, sent you information before, do you have like an initial review policy, or do you just take whatever comes to you?
yes, sir. What I tell people when they call me and ask me about a case, first thing is, I'll do you an initial review for free, because I don't know if I'm going to take your case or not till I know the facts. Because I may not want to, I may not agree with your person, you know, or support their position. So in your case, you sent me the facts and I reviewed them, and then I sent you back an initial review.
And in the information that I sent you initially, did it include some videos?
Yes, sir.
Did it include a basic synopsis of certain statements that we had at that time?
Yes, sir, it did.
Did you have the opportunity to review those videos and the synopsis of statements?
Yes, sir.
And subsequent to your initial review, did you agree to at least continue service in this particular case?
I did because of the limitation of what I was going to be involved in. I was involved specifically to review the activities and behavior of one police officer. In this case, that's Mr. Bean, not the entire situation, because there are some components in that situation that I don't care for.
And in your review of the situation, did you also say that you wanted an opportunity prior to saying, I'm going to jump in and do what you're doing today? Did you say you want to meet Tyre Bean?
Oh, yes, sir.
And
I want to interview him.
did you have the opportunity to review documents and things with Tyre Bean?
Yes, I did.
And as a part of that process, did you go through the videos that were involved in this case?
Yes, sir, we did. Played the video back and talked about him, and then there was an allegation that he had struck the suspect, or the victim in this case.
Oh, I'm
We
sorry, y'all.
slowed it down and took a look at it to see exactly how it was done, because under the policy for Memphis, you have an open-handed process and a closed-hand process, and we wanted to see which it was.
And you had, by that time, had you familiarized yourself with the Memphis policy regarding the use of force continuum?
Yes, sir, I was relatively familiar with it. I wouldn't say I could quote it, but
And the use of force continuum, just for the sake of the jury, is that what starts off, I think, with a physical presence at a location?
yes, sir, basically start with your appearance, and, you know, show up, and sometimes that'll accomplish things, and sometimes it don't.
What about verbal commands?
Yes, sir, that would be your next level, verbal
And-
commands, and then eventually from there you would go to open hands on, and then if necessary, then you'd go to closed hands, which is a more violent stuff, and then of course, lethal would be the last.
And between closed hands or hard hands, empty, and lethal, is there, I see you have a cane with you. Is there an instrument that the city of Memphis has, or allows certain officers to have, that might be an intermediate form of force?
Well, you can use batons, and whether that's a regular baton or an expandable or asp, I mean, there's several different kinds. You can use those at
Please hit the
levels
like
less than
button.
lethal, because that's not a lethal force.
And have you ever seen an asp baton prior to this case?
Oh, yes, sir.
All right. And is that the item that if you flick out a certain way, it can come out as a piece of metal?
Yes, sir, it folds up and then it extends if you flip it.
In addition to that asp baton, is there another intermediate form of force that would involve any sort of a canister or spray?
Well, you're talking about your OC spray or your pepper spray, whichever name you prefer. But yes, there is.
Now, you heard Mr. Zawicki testify earlier, and this week you had some health situations going on, so you weren't here for all of the testimony this week,
That's
right?
correct.
But you have been around people where pepper spray has been deployed.
I've been around a lot of it. Not only that, I've been pepper sprayed where I went through training.
Is it a pleasant experience?
No, there ain't nothing fun about it.
And a straight burst of pepper spray into the face, can it be painful?
It can be painful. It can interfere with your eyesight and your thought pattern because it does. It makes you feel like you're losing your breath and stuff. And it's not fun.
And
Pepper spray
busy.
administered at night while trying to place handcuffs on a suspect that might be resisting, would that make that task somewhat more difficult than trying to arrest a person who's willing to put his hands behind his back?
Well, if he's willing to put his hands behind his back, obviously it's much easier than somebody resisting you. And the pepper spray on a person being handcuffed, you got to be careful because you don't want to get that all in the officer's face. And in this particular case, that's what seems to have happened.
Would that in any way limit your ability to see or your field of vision?
Oh, without a doubt, it limits their field of vision and their field of concentration would probably become narrowed behind that because they'd be more worried about the pain and the discomfort.
And you heard your field of what you just described, but you also heard earlier Mr. Zawicki talk about what he described as tunnel vision.
Yes.
I think different people might describe it different ways, but when you're trying to focus on something, can you tell the court what you're thinking about if you're trying to put handcuffs on somebody that you've never met before?
Yes, sir. What normally, first off, you don't know if they're armed or not, so you got to be careful. But when you grab their hand and now you're trying to cuff it, your attention's on their hand. That's what you're trying to get control of, to get cuffs on. And I say cuffs because you need them on both wrists. Once you get them on one, you don't want to let go of that because that other cuff is actually used as a weapon. If it's slung around, it can cut you up. So you really keep your attention on the hands because if you control the hands, they can't pull a weapon and you can hopefully get them cuffed without getting hurt.
Well, what is the rule that you taught me about if the cuffs aren't on a suspect? Is the scene secured before the cuffs get on?
No.
No, sir, it's not. No, not at all. You can't consider it secured at all until you get them cuffed where you can control them and then hopefully make sure they don't have a weapon.
And is it increased somewhat if you know or don't know whether or not this person might have a firearm or a knife or whatever they might have, that suspect?
Well, if you don't know that, that increases the danger and frankly, the stress.
You said that you had the opportunity to discuss this case with Tyre Bean.
Yes, I did.
And did you see a video, which we're going to call the body-worn camera, of Tyre Bean?
Yeah, I saw, yes, sir, I did, but it's a bit limited because it came off during the altercation.
Do you recall seeing it? And if we'll go to body-worn camera 1, Tyre Bean, this has already been marked in that video. Give us just a second. I hope we're on the system. As you're looking at it right now, do you recall seeing this particular body-worn camera? This
Yes.
would be from the perspective of the person who's in the passenger side of that vehicle.
That's correct, because Officer Mills was driving their car.
And from your information, Bean would be on that passenger side.
Woo. Hold on.
Hold on a second, Mark. When I asked you to hit it, just call out the timestamp, if you will.
starting at 20:31:28.
Which one is it, please?
Hey, Byron. Young, young, young. Hey, Byron. Oh, now he just driving.
Now,
It's paused at 20:33:03.
so it's a little over a minute and a half of
Yes.
video. When you saw that video from the perspective of Darius Bean, to Darius, and going back to the site that door first opened, do you recall seeing the person that walks up
Yes,
that street?
yes,
And do you recall that person being identified as the suspect?
yes.
And at the point that you see, do you have any criticisms of the actions up to that point of Mr. Tadarius Bean?
No, sir, they'd received a dispatch that a suspect had been in an altercation with some police officers and was running and trying to escape, so they were looking for that suspect. And I think they were 3 miles or so away from where the initial stop was, so they weren't there for all of that.
So
They
that
just heard the
initial
radio.
stop, you were in the courtroom when the initial stop was being played earlier?
Yes.
The guy got the man out of the car and in the A-frame and all of that.
Yes.
To your knowledge, was Tadarius Bean aware of what all would have happened on that scene at all
No,
during this time?
No, sir, all he knew is that the dispatch was that they were in pursuit of a guy they had tried to spray and arrest, and he had escaped and was running.
And based on your knowledge, if Tadarius Bean is sitting in the passenger seat of this car and he sees a person who meets the description of that suspect, and based on the knowledge that he has been pepper sprayed, and this suspect is walking down the street wiping his face, if Tadarius Bean says, "Hey," and the suspect turns and runs, can you tell this court what Tadarius Bean is supposed to do as an officer if he worked for you in your role as police chief?
His job would be to get out and try to apprehend that individual, because it does make it appear that he's the subject you're looking for.
If the driver of that vehicle, on that two-man team, when he got back to the station that night and said, "Chief Tisdale, Tadarius Bean wouldn't jump out the car," what would be your response to that?
He'd be fired.
Any questions?
Not many, because
Ah!
as a law enforcement
He said,
officer,
"Not many."
you know that other officers are after somebody. You've got a responsibility to assist.
So, in your opinion, did Tadarius Bean have any other options than what he has done up to that point?
Not at that point.
Not at that point.
We're going to go to the body-worn camera of the driver, Mr. Mills.
Right.
And we're going to play it the same way. And
Yes.
without interruption until a certain point. We're going to play it until they're trying to get the hands of the suspect.
Yes.
And we'll stop there.
This is starting at 20:32:05.
deployment of pepper, or OC spray at this point?
Yes,
And is this the point that Bean identified that he had been sprayed as well?
yes,
Right. And you saw it deployed just then. Now, that is played in regular speed, correct?
yes, sir.
I'm gonna ask if we go back 20 seconds, and let's play it at half speed.
Yes, sir.
And give us the scan.
This is gonna be 20:32:59.
What time is this? What time is this? What time? Cascade Lane! Ross and Cascade Lane!
Hold on, y'all. Let me stop. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Oh, Lord, I am trying to write a all cap message to someone, and it is not allowing me to do it. But hold on.
A few questions to this point. Did you see where the hands of Mr. Bean was landing in relations to the suspect?
Gets her hitting on his forearms and is trying to push his arms back when he brought them around. They're open. That's an open-handed technique. It's not a punch.
Did it appear that any of those blows landed to the head of the suspect that we've come to know as Mr. Nichols?
No, sir.
The language that was used, we've heard the term verbal judo this week.
Yeah.
Could you explain to this jury about language on a scene such as this?
Well, it's like anything, and that's a highly nervous, irate, scared situation where everybody's all tangled up. So you're going to usually hear some bad language. I personally don't like that, but it's not that unusual. It's pretty normal.
On a scene such as this, are you trying to use language to make whomever it is come into compliance with what you're trying to
Exactly. Whatever it takes to get his attention is what you're trying to do at that point. So if he'll concur and do what he should do, then hopefully nobody will get hurt.
We're going to play at regular speed the remaining portion of that, about another two minutes. Mom! Hey! Here it is! Okay, all right. You know what I mean? You know what? All right. Okay. All right. All right. What? Hey, give me your hand, bro. Give me your hand. What's up? Spray out again. Hey, give me your hand, bro. What's up? Spray. All right. Give me your hand, bro. Oh, shit. Oh, shit. To this point, as he has the handcuffing, yes, sir, I apologize. Let it keep going for another minute. The castigate and three. You can get him from Ross and castigate. Man, this dude, he's gonna shit.
Called at 203646.
So we've seen a few minutes of Mills's body worn camera.
Yes, sir.
And going back, you see at one point it appears that someone drives up and gets out.
Yes, sir.
And do you remember seeing that person coming up and administering what's been described as a soccer kick?
Yeah, he came up and tried to kick him, yes, sir.
And we've looked at the videos, right?
Yes, sir.
Could you ever determine definitively whether those kicks landed or to the degree in which they landed?
Well, not absolute, but you could tell that on the first kick, if you slow it down, it seems like it's more on top of the head than you would think, at full speed, as opposed to being, flush. But you really can't, it kind of disappears on you at times when he's kicking up and down. You can't tell.
Do you remember us looking for the specific movements in relation to Tyre Bean when that occurs? Where does it appear that Mr. Bean is?
Yes, sir. He's still struggling with the hand and the cuff on the hand. I mean, it's obvious his face is full of that pepper spray because he's trying to hang on and look down and, not let go of.
You heard a few moments ago questions regarding the duty to intervene, and I assume that on cross-examination you might be asked some more questions regarding the duty to intervene. Can you explain to this jury the reasonableness and whether or not Mr. Bean's actions were reasonable in relation to a duty to intervene?
Well, in that particular case, he could not turn loose of that cuff because that creates a weapon that could be used to hurt other people. The other issue with it is you're talking about a 3-minute affair. You're not talking about, a long, drawn-out thing. So there wasn't a lot of time there. Would it have been nice if he could? Sure, it would have been. But that's not always a practical solution at that point. Plus, it's questionable to me whether he even saw the kicks and the hits, because when I talked to him, he told me he did not. And we know that he'd gotten sprayed with that pepper spray on at least a couple of occasions.
When you have a person that's down, did it seem that one person out of everybody?
Hey, wait, Fred.
Ooh. All they had to do was leave. Martin had to do was not even try to pull this man over, knowing good and damn well at that time he didn't violate nothing. He's already admitted it. But all that extra overkill stuff, especially you. Yeah. Oh, I wonder what happened. Y'all, this is crazy. Can y'all still hear me? Am I spinning? Am I good? It ain't me, y'all. It's them. Oh, okay.
That have referenced some statements from Mr. Bean. We have not heard any testimony from Mr. Bean or anything of that regard. So the court is going to strike the two questions that were referencing or that made reference to statements made by Mr. Bean. And the court is going to ask you all to strike that from, or strike any responses or questions from your notes and instruct you all that you cannot go back and use that information during your deliberations.
Yeah, I say accordingly, and hear me carefully, because just like what the court said, I don't want to go into what might have been said during the time that you were looking at these videos and consulting. I might ask you some hypotheticals about if a person is under a certain condition.
Yes.
Right? Going forward, if a person is under the conditions of being blind and the pain of OC spray and attempting to put handcuffs on someone, do they have the opportunity to jump up and say something to another person about what their actions are about to be?
No, sir, it wouldn't seem reasonable.
Would it seem reasonable that that same person would say, hey, I'm going to let this person go because you attempted to kick or might have kicked this person? Is that reasonable based on your experience in law enforcement?
No, sir.
Did it appear to you, just based off of your observations, whether or not Bean's actions regarding the attempt to try to get this person into cuffs, was it reasonable based on what we've just seen?
Was his actions reasonable?
Were his actions reasonable?
Yes, they were.
We're going to go to, if you will, the final one camera number 2. While he's pulling it up, when a suspect has been in an altercation with officers, is there a duty that you have taught regarding medical care or providing any sort of medical treatment?
Well, if you think he's injured, you have an obligation to notify medical. And
Once people that are considered EMTs or emergency medical team, when EMTs, once they arrive, who is the higher standard of health care on that scene?
it'd be the EMT. I mean, they're going to tell you what you need to do, and whatever you do, whatever you got to do to assist them.
Did you ever observe Tyre Bean do anything to obstruct the administering of treatment to Mr. Nichols?
I did not observe anything of that nature.
And this is with the various body-worn cameras that you looked at?
Yes,
If during the course of EMTs being on the scene, and then once a paramedic arrives, if the paramedic or EMT would ask the officer who has handcuffs on the suspect to remove said handcuffs, what would you expect that officer to do?
I expect him to remove him if it's reasonable to, and by that I mean he's not still acting crazy. And I believe, and from what I saw on the film, they did remove the cuffs once the medical people got there.
I'm going to show you the timestamp if you will.
Timestamp was 20:57:25.
This is on that same scene.
Yes, sir.
I believe that EMTs and, at this point, paramedics have arrived.
Hi, Beth.
If I propose to you, and that is the body worn camera of Tyre Bean,
Yes, sir.
if you see that person wearing that body worn camera appear to unlock the handcuffs after being asked by a paramedic, does that appear to be reasonable?
Yes, sir, it does.
Now, if there are questions or not, if there are questions that are coming from a paramedic or an EMT regarding a person's injuries or what appears to be injuries, do you expect an officer to say one way or the other what has happened or answer those questions?
Expecting to answer the questions of the EMT because they have the medical knowledge.
If there are no questions being asked of the particular officer, what would you expect the behavior of that officer to be on the scene?
Stay out of the way, not cause any confusion, and support.
And if those officers if those medical providers or healthcare providers are on the scene and they're observing this particular suspect, do you know of a duty to start rendering a play-by-play of what has happened moments earlier?
No, sir, I'm not aware of any such duty.
In review of the MPD policy, did you see any such duty to go play-by-play about what happened or to show body-worn cameras to the EMTs or the paramedics or anybody?
No, sir.
Based on your experience, could that be a form of interfering with their...
It could be, depending on what all's going on and how busy everything is.
There have been introductions of Bad Bob. Do you remember that?
Yes, sir.
Do you remember seeing
Y'all,
the Bad
please
Bob
hit the
exercise?
like
You've
button.
seen it a few times as of right now. Do you remember, can you recall what that Bad Bob exercise is from what you saw?
If I remember right, that's the one that after they spray the guy, he goes up and hits him with the elbows. Is it?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Based on your experience and your training, is that the type of training that you would recommend in apprehending a suspect?
No, probably not. I would recommend trying other techniques before you got to the elbow, having it hit in the face. But that's dependent on what that individual's doing. I mean, because that's just a dummy standing there.
Hi,
So a lot
Samantha.
depends on what that individual's doing.
And do you, as an officer, rely on any of the things that you've been trained in the academy regarding what behavior is right and what behavior is wrong?
Yes, sir.
And if you're under a situation where you've been pepper sprayed, and MPD Training Academy teaches you a certain thing, would you expect the officer under the same situations to either deviate from what the training is or to actually engage in what the training, poor training, good training, regardless, in what that training has taught that officer?
Well, you expect the officer normally to adhere to their training. That becomes your habits and the things that you do, especially when you're under stress from spray or whatever, where you're not thinking clear. You know, you just go back to what you've been trained to do.
Spend about a minute on, or just a few moments on questions that are just specific about your observations and your opinions in regards to those observations. You saw Tyre Bean, and you said it earlier, but I want to be clear for this jury. When he observes the suspect walking down the street and the suspect meets the call-out description that came over the radio, what would you expect Tyre Bean to do?
Expecting to apprehend the suspect.
And do you have any criticisms of Mr. Bean's actions at that point?
No, sir.
Once he
He
gets,
asked him to stop, and the guy just refused and then started running.
when he gets to the suspect and attempts to tackle or take down the suspect, do you have any criticisms regarding that?
No, sir. At the time he arrived, the suspect, I believe it was Officer Smith, drove up pretty close to the same time, and they took him down.
Which
And that's
one?
not unusual to cuff a guy.
The one that's the witness,
Control.
expert witness, or the one that's talking
Is
to
it
him?
easy or pretty difficult to handcuff a person who's non-compliant with your verbal request to be handcuffed?
Well, yes, sir, it's difficult.
Him or the black guy?
Is the difficulty increased somewhat if there are certain conditions that might be either outside environmentally, if the ground is wet, in other words,
Right.
if the suspect is not adhering to any of the commands, would that
Oh,
make
yeah. It all makes it more difficult.
it? Right. And so you don't have any complaints regarding, or any sort of statement to give this jury that those were less than reasonable, to try to get him on the ground and to put him in cuffs.
No, sir, that was not less than reasonable. Especially after because you do hear on the tape repeatedly them telling him, give me your hands, get down, and, he's obviously ignoring that.
Attempting to control this suspect on the ground, even after another officer comes up, and you were pretty candid about the fact that you do have a complaint regarding the kick to the attempted kick to the head area, right?
Yes.
Now, you are familiar with the hands policy that says kicks are allowed,
Yes.
correct? But in that particular instance, you would not
No, sir.
want the kicks.
No, sir.
Do you have any sort of complaint or any sort of comment regarding whether or not it's reasonable to continue to try to get this guy under control if you're Tyre Bean in that situation?
Oh, absolutely, it was reasonable. In fact, it was expected. If he stopped trying to get him under control, someone's going to get hurt.
The attempt to, have you heard the term stay in the fight?
Stay in the fight.
Yes.
Sir.
And what does that mean to you?
It means you don't quit.
Did one of the officers have an opportunity to kind of walk off and catch their breath some?
Yes, I believe it was Mills. If I remember right, I know after he sprayed that pepper spray, he must have got some on himself the way it sounded, when he walked off like he was trying to get his breath.
And even at that time, even after the point that it appeared that Mr. Nichols, did Mr. Nichols at some point appear to get up from the ground?
Yes, sir, you got it.
Is it as your experience as an officer, if you have a non-compliant person, is it more difficult to arrest a person who's standing up or to arrest him if he's on the ground?
It's more difficult with him standing, and usually on the ground you can get better control of.
In that particular situation that Mr. Bean and those officers were facing, would it have been an easier or more preferable, let's put it that way, preferable arrest to take him to the ground or to continue to have him standing up?
Take him to the ground.
When he's standing up, do you remember whether or not you ever see Mr. Bean, based on our observations of the video, and not what anybody told you, do you remember seeing Mr. Bean attempting to take him to the ground even when he does stand up?
Yes, sir, he's still trying to pull him back and pull him down.
Did you see his hands placed on the waist at some point?
At one point, yes, sir.
Did you see his hands on one of the hands?
Oh, yes, sir, that's where the cuff is still attached.
And to disengage at that point, or to try to start a confrontation with the officer who might be administering 3 blows to his face, is that dangerous or not dangerous?
Well, it's still dangerous. If you still got that cuff dangling, you can hurt people. Or if you're letting a suspect go, you don't even know if he's armed or not. So you don't want to just turn him loose.
And you're testifying through the years, you've been called upon to ask questions regarding certain factors. We're not going to get into the names of factors and all of that. But anything that you have seen in this particular situation that in any way, on behalf of Tyre Bean, that you have a criticism of, or that you say was inappropriate action taken by this MPD police officer?
No, sir, and everything I've seen, Mr. Bean wasn't even on the scene at the initial stop, so that doesn't have anything to do with it. He gets a call that the suspect's running, so he sees him and he goes after him. All of that's totally reasonable. And take him down and try to cuff him. There is absolutely nothing I've seen that shows Bean hitting or kicking the subject. Now, there's some others doing that, and that's problematic to me, but nothing that shows Bean or Mr. Smith, I believe it was. I don't believe I saw either one of them do anything like that.
Your Honor, may I approach which I did not have this marketing and, whatever that number I had before. I've shown this in CD. I've shown this.
Any objections to the
No, Your Honor.
All right, so the 5-page resume of Mr. Tisdale as exhibit 38.
You want to based on that this time? Yes.
All right. Mr. Leffler, Mr. Stengel?
No question.
All right, Mr. Zuma?
I don't have anything, Your Honor.
All right, State?
Mr. Tisdale,
Yes, ma'am.
sounds like you've had an extensive career in law enforcement. That fair to say?
Try again, I couldn't hear you, ma'am.
I'm sorry, let me step up a little bit, okay?
Well, I'm by half deaf.
It's okay. It sounds like you had, and now the acoustics, it sounds like you had an extensive career in law enforcement. Is that fair to say?
Yes, ma'am.
I think you said about 36 or 37 years, maybe.
Yeah, something like that. I'd have to go back and figure, and whether you want to count when I was teaching, because I had already retired.
Gotcha. And then you started off in a patrol car,
Yes, ma'am.
like any other officer, and you worked your way all the way up to chief. Is
Yes,
that
ma'am.
right?
Yes, ma'am.
Chief in 2 different agencies.
Yes, ma'am.
And you talked about, and I know we want to limit our testimony to what Beans did, but you understand you've been tendered as an expert in use of force in general, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And so with that, I want to talk about some of the stuff that we've seen, because you've been in the courtroom today, haven't you?
Yes, ma'am.
I mean, you just went through some body cam with Mr. Perry, right?
Yes, ma'am.
You said that every action that Tyre Bean took, and we'll talk about those actions, but that was reasonable.
Yes, ma'am.
But you would agree that everything that happened out on this scene wasn't reasonable.
Based on what I know, because you have to remember I wasn't hired to investigate that part, so I didn't question people or look, into more evidence than what was approaching Mr. Bean.
Right.
Sorry.
How dare you? Okay, y'all, my hand is hurt. I'm gonna set this down while they doing what they doing. Oh yeah, cause y'all ain't hit the like button. Y'all, I'm about to end it. I'm real close to ending it.
Mr. Tisdale, I was just asking you a question.
Yes, ma'am.
And I was asking you about pretty much the force that was used out on the scene.
Yes, ma'am. I obviously have some questions, but I haven't investigated those other areas because they didn't involve Mr. Bean.
I understand. Well, I'm gonna just ask you generally, okay? Is
Yes,
that fair? You would agree, because you said in your report that there was some conduct on this scene that was inappropriate, right?
It appears that way.
And that conduct that you're talking about, there would have been the punches to the head, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
There would have also been the kicks to the head, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And based off of that, you would agree with your colleague who just took the stand not too long ago that not only was that inappropriate, there was excessive, right?
There was what?
Your objection, Your Honor. Two things. One, characterization of Mr. Sawicki's his colleague. That's inappropriate. It's argumentative. And number two, did she just characterize what Mr. Sawicki's testimony was? Objection.
I don't think that is argumentative to call them colleagues. I think that whether they are or not, I don't think that it's that consequential. But as far as the testimony, I don't know if that was necessarily the full testimony. I asked him what his understanding of the testimony is and see if he agrees with it. But
Judge, I rephrase. Mr. Tisdale,
Yes, ma'am.
is a kick to the head of an individual who's on the ground, would that be excessive?
Would that be a what?
Excessive.
Excessive under most circumstances. Not, it'd have to be something really crazy, to have it happen.
It have to, can you repeat what you just said?
Yeah, I said under most circumstances it's excessive.
As an individual, and you talked about the holding of hands, you said it wouldn't have been reasonable for Mr. Bean to release Tyre's hands because he was holding on to the cuff. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am. Well, Mr. Bean was holding on to the cuff. The cuff was on one wrist, if I remember correctly.
Okay. And you said if he released that cuff, it could be dangerous because the cuff could cut a bunch of people, right?
Yes, ma'am. You go to the cuff, if it's not closed especially, it's like a razor almost, that goes swinging.
But if Mr. Bean wasn't holding that cuff, then he could release the hand to intervene, couldn't he?
And it's still a little questionable about releasing the hand, because you release the hand, the suspect has the ability to do more.
That's okay. But you would agree that releasing the cuff, grabbing somebody, that's not the only way to intervene, is it?
No.
Simply saying, hey, don't do that. It's intervening, right?
Well, it's trying to. Now, whether the individual will respond to that or not, I don't know.
Well, it's trying to intervene, right?
Right.
Simply saying stop, intervening, right?
Could be.
And you didn't hear Mr. Bean do either of those things, did you?
No, ma'am.
Ah. Mm-hmm. They trying to protect the lawmen.
How if medical personnel made a scene, if they don't ask questions, officers don't have to volunteer information. They're right?
Not normally. You wouldn't bother them. You would leave them alone and let them treat the guy.
Gotcha. And you say you're an expert in policy as well, right?
I can't. Yes, ma'am.
And you review MPD policy for this case.
Yes, ma'am.
And if there's something in MPD policy that says officers do have a duty to let medical personnel know what's happening on the scene.
I'm going to object, Your Honor. If she's going to ask a question specifically from the policy, if she could at least show the witness what she's referring to is all I'm asking.
I think the question is whether he knows. And
Yeah, do he know?
I think the question that she's asking is a line question, so I'll allow her to ask the question.
Thank you, Judge. Mr. Tisdale,
Yes, ma'am.
my question to you is if MPD policy is
That you have researched.
are supposed to tell medical personnel what type of force has been given to an individual, then that's the policy that someone should follow, right?
Yes, but that's without knowing what all's in it. I mean, I don't know.
A policy is a
factually
policy.
what I was there and who told or didn't tell. For all I don't know whether or not another officer told him or whether or not Mr. Bean told him later, because
I'm just asking about if that's the policy, that's what you should do.
if that was all it said, yes, ma'am, but I don't think that's all it says.
Well, what does it say?
You talked about how officers are supposed to go back to their training, correct?
What I said was under circumstances they default to their training.
So officers are supposed to follow training. You
Yes,
agree
ma'am.
with me on that?
Yeah, you would like to, yes, ma'am.
You would like to.
And
Ooh, baby,
you
they
said
be
you were
so
doing MPD material.
spinning,
Are
thank
you
you.
aware that MPD only teaches 2 types of kicks?
Yes, ma'am.
What are those 2 types of kicks?
I don't remember, but I remember noticing that they were in the use of force.
Neither of those kicks are kicks to the head, are they?
Oh, no, ma'am.
Would you agree with me that any type of strikes to the head could be deadly force?
Could be, yes, ma'am.
Judge Romo?
She got her point across, Jacoba. The way they bouncing around it, she got her point across. That kick to the head. No matter what's in the policy, cause what happens is they say they know. They know this, they know that. They don't study this, that I did this for free. I ain't getting paid. And then when you ask questions that will incriminate, then all of a sudden, I don't know, I didn't see it, I didn't feel it, I can't think for them. So the bottom line is that kick to the head policy? No. She got to it. She baited them just right. She baited them. That's called baiting, Jacoby. She baited that ass. Her verbal. I'm just speaking on her verbal presentation. Okay, I'm not gonna do this with you. Okay, it's your opinion.
Okay, thank you. I just didn't want to be disrespectful.
They should have took a plea deal.
You ain't no kin to me, or my mama was a gentleman.
Are they joking? His ass is in trouble. That kick to the head was not policy.
Stand 10-minute recess.
All right, thank you for everything, sir.
He should have took a plea. He should have took a plea. I don't know what he knew. What none of that shit they did was policy. He knew that. If he didn't, he should have checked. So it made no sense. This, ugh. And again, I'm saying y'all better get prepared. All this, I had a right. You don't touch me. The Trump just signed an order, executive order, for police not to have to justify any actions, because he's already anticipating something that he knows is going to get out of line. And if you have to kill him, kill him. Or unalive him. That's what's coming. Nomad, come on, you coming in, Nomad. Did you miss it? Did you miss the guy who made the initial stop? He lied. He admitted that he did not, there was no reason for him to stop him. So why are you saying he should be in jail? He should have never been stopped. He was picking on people. He was mad because he had been on desk duty. He was mad because he had been in an accident. And he was mad because he had just shortly before that missed an opportunity to, I guess somebody got away. And he said that Dwayne, the lieutenant, was expecting for them to be aggressive and have a certain amount of arrest. So he stopped him unjust. He didn't put his blinker on. All of that shit was a lie. It was a lie. And then it just took off from there. So no, he didn't deserve to be profiled. Oh yeah, he confessed that when he took that plea deal. And he was the one who took the plea deal first. Martin, who did is almost more damage than Haley. He took the plea deal first. Yeah. I think he violated it or something. No, yeah. And then the other guy, Mims, he took the plea deal second. Why these, or especially Haley, why he didn't take a plea deal, I don't know. No. He was trying to meet some numbers. But they wanted violent. He was on a force for violent offenders. That's what the Scorpion unit was for. He didn't have a violent past. Nope. He was profiled. No, none of this stuff should have happened. None of it. And that's why I'm trying to warn the people. It's about to get worse because Trump is signing executive orders that the police do not have cannot be held accountable for any actions that they do, right or wrong. So they're going to be able to beat and ill without any consequences. This is horrible. I don't think only people when they really have done something wrong. You know, don't pin nothing on me. Don't. Cause see, they dirty. I mean, they started out dirty. So as far as I'm concerned, everything that they did was dirty. So you can't ask him if he had drugs. You can't ask him none of that. We don't know that what was in his car was really in his car. You know what I mean? Because they started doing dirty shit. So everything that they found, one mushroom. No. If a person is on drugs or use drugs, no. They may just have one, but I don't believe that. And then Hagerman, yeah, yesterday he exposed that there have been a string of car thefts in the people's area where somebody had stole their stuff. And the guy was arrested. 44. So how did it get in his car? If he didn't know that guy that was arrested for all those car break-ins. How did it get in his car? I don't believe none of that. I think all of that's planted. Hey, V-Money. All of that could have been planted. Did they go for the day? Hold on. I'm up here. I thought they asked for a minute. Hold on. Oh, no, they back. Okay, hold on.
Is the Justin Smith that I know.
They took a long little break, didn't they? Man, I'm trying to do too many things at one time. Come on.
The city of Memphis.
Come on. Hey, I tell y'all what, no matter something happened to you, you better hope I'm around, because I ain't going to let none of that stuff go down.
All right, we can go ahead.
None of it. You hear me?
And is your focus pretty much on the issue that's at hand?
Yes.
And I approach you on it.
Ain't that right? V-Money.
Thank you.
You look at that document that I just handed you. Deputy Hankins.
Yes, sir. It's a police department policy procedure section.
And have you seen that policy previously?
I think so, sir, but I'm not 100% sure.
Okay. And if you look at it, see if going midway down the page regarding the duty to intervene for MPD.
Yes, sir, I see that duty to intervene.
And is that the MPD policy that you had reviewed with me before?
Yes, sir.
Can you read the first line of that policy on the duty to intervene?
Any member who directly observes another member engaged in dangerous or criminal conduct or abuse of the subject shall take reasonable action to intervene.
Now, based on what you have seen in that 3-minute action trying to get Mr. Nichols into compliance and get him under arrest,
Yes, sir.
were Mr. Bean's actions reasonable actions?
Absolutely.
And would it have been reasonable for Mr. Bean to stop what he's doing in order to in any way stop what some other officer is trying to do regarding the suspect at that time?
No, sir.
And to have stopped what he's doing, would that have created any sort of more dangerous or less dangerous situation for the officers on that side?
It would have increased the danger.
And I'd ask that be more just the next that the court receive it as an exhibit.
We will show the MPD policy procedures section rules, 1 page, as exhibit 39.
Thank you, Your Honor. I don't have anything further from the witness, Your Honor.
All right. Anything else from this witness?
Very briefly.
Mr. Tisdale, you spoke briefly earlier about verbal judo, correct?
I think this is beyond the
I
scope.
acknowledge that I'd heard it.
It's beyond the scope of any recalls. Mr. Perry was limited in his questions just to referring to
questions we have for you, sir. You can step down. Please watch your step.
Well, thank you very much, sir. You got it.
They playing police cover game.
Vince, you ready with your next witness?
Yes, Your Honor, in order to keep matters moving, in this hour, I'm going to call a short witness on behalf of Justin Smith.
All right.
I think his name is Tate. Mr. Tate.
Last name Tate.
T-A-T-E.
Sir, do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you give today will be the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, sir, Your Honor.
All right, please have a seat, sir. All right,
Thank you, Your Honor. Could you please state your full name and spell it for the court reporter, please?
Yes, sir. It's, first name is Curtis. That's C-U-R-T-I-S. Last name is Tate. That is T-A-T-E.
All right. And how are you employed?
I work for the City of Memphis Police Department.
And how long have you been, are you a police officer?
A police officer, yes, sir.
Okay. So you're a police officer in Memphis Police Department.
Yes, sir.
How long have you been a police officer in Memphis Police Department?
A little over 6 years.
And do you know Mr. Justin Smith sitting over there?
I do know Justin Smith.
And how long have you known Justin?
I've known Justin Smith for 5 years.
Have you worked directly with him?
I have worked with Justin Smith.
And have you known him long enough and well enough in order to form an opinion as to the character of Justin Smith?
I have, sir.
Could you please share with the jury and the judge what your opinion is regarding Justin Smith's character?
Yes. My opinion of Justin Smith is he's an honorable, honest guy. He is a loving father and a husband. He is professional, he's kind, he's gentle, and he's courageous. He's incapable of, in my opinion, of hurting a victim, any any suspect, and any citizen. And what I know of Justin Smith is if Justin Smith knew that a citizen was being treated unfairly, he would stop and intervene, and he would confront that officer. I know that Justin Smith, I know, is the kind of guy that if your mom or your daughter was broke down on the side of the road, you'd want him to be driving by because he'd stop and help. If one of your family members was on the wrong side of a mistake and had to be taken into custody, the Justin Smith that I know, that's who you'd want to do it because he'd make sure that they were treated fairly. That's the Justin Smith that I know.
Are you familiar with whether or not Justin Smith has a reputation within the Memphis Police Department and specifically the organized crime side? You don't work in organized crime, do you?
I did.
You used to. So
Yes,
do
sir.
you have knowledge or information regarding Justin Smith's reputation amongst the Memphis Police Department and the OCU umbrella, for lack of a better word?
Absolutely. It's the same reputation that I just spoke to you all about. He is an honest, hardworking, courageous, fair person. He's incapable of being untruthful.
He
that
what?
is the Justin Smith's reputation that I know of from working with him in the organized crime unit for the Memphis Police Department.
That's all I have on this, Judge.
Mr. Perry?
No questions, Judge.
No question.
All right, state.
You said Justin Smith's a good person.
Yes, sir.
Oh, Hageman back. Hageman back.
Good
Let's
people
go.
Sometimes do bad things.
Yes, sir.
You agree with that?
Yes, sir, I did.
I heard a word that you said I don't agree with, okay?
Yes, sir.
I've heard incapable.
Let's go, Hageman.
Good people can do bad things.
Yes, sir.
That means good people are capable of doing bad things,
Yes, they are. Yes, sir.
right?
Yeah.
So you would never say a good person is incapable of doing bad things.
I'm saying Justin Smith is the Justin Smith that I know of, sir. That's all.
Good or bad thing. Not to intervene when excessive force is being used right in front of his face?
That's bad.
It's bad. Good or bad thing, not to tell medical personnel that a man has head wounds.
In general, it's bad, sir.
It's bad. Sometimes good people can do bad things.
They can, sir.
Sometimes they can let us down.
They can, sir.
Was there anything else? Are you done?
Thanks, sir.
Now, you've seen the videos that made its way around the media. Is that right?
I have seen some of the video, yes, sir.
And you testified, the way you testified, that Mr. Hagerman skillfully talked to you about good people and bad people, and good people can do bad things, good people are capable of doing bad things. That line of questioning. Okay?
Yes, sir. I think he was speaking in general. Yeah.
You're getting ahead of me, Mr. Payne.
Yeah.
Does any of that general hypothesis, are you still of the opinion that Justin Smith, that you know, is incapable of harming a suspect?
Yes, that Justin Smith that I know is incapable of harming.
That's all I have now.
Anything else to this witness? No, sir. All right, so those are all the questions. You can step down. Great. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, we've been going at it for some time. At this time, we're going to go ahead and excuse you all for the evening. We are going to get started again tomorrow morning. We will have you all back in here ready to go. But please rest well. We'll see you all tomorrow morning.
Okay, y'all, there we go. Something up with them Justins.
Jury's now stepped out of the courtroom. I did have a question for the attorneys. Y'all can see it. With regard to the expert, Mr. Sawicki, just wanted to make sure that there was discussion about him being with an expert in digital evidence. There was a question after the fact. Was not sure if that was supposed to or intended to be one of his expertise.
Yes, sir. The other is video, and I think it's video digital analysis. Like it wrong.
And then the other was, you said individual critical incident as far as the other expertise of Mr. Sawicki. You had listed off several, but one of them had individual critical incident. Just confirm that that's what.
That sounds like one of those word jumbles I'm capable of. In other words, if the video with the digital evidence analysis is added to the big long list, I'm not asking for the critical incident.
All right.
Whatever that was, individual critical incident.
All right. So just what I have for Mr. Sawicki was the defensive tactics, human factors, deadly force, police training, and video and digital analysis.
Yeah.
So that's the question I had for you. Are there any housekeeping matters that we need to address before we adjourn?
Judge, the only question I had, are there special entrances for us to get in Saturday morning?
The same door that y'all come in through the attorney door, you just have to be buzzed in. So you'll need to, I guess we'll need to make sure that y'all come in with your client, because there's not going to be a public insurance for them to be able to come in, not come in through the attorney door with you.
I'm just gonna inform the court, on Darius Bean's behalf, we're finished with our presentation, so if you want just a general list, if
All right, can I have the attorney's approach?
Ooh, what y'all think? Hi, Tamala. Hey, buddy boy. What y'all think?
All right, with that being said, we're gonna go ahead and adjourn until tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. All rise.
Are we gonna be back tomorrow?
Tomorrow morning, 9 a.m.
Ooh, they trying to come on with a verdict. That's why that man was talking. Yeah, a little like he want to charge all them. Hold on. All them what? Big money. Hold on, yeah. Baby, I can, dang, it's at 15%. I can already predict some things. Hold on, y'all. Him right there, he gonna get the most time. He gonna get the most time, baby. Hold on. Hold on. Him gonna get the most time. Hold on, where is this? Oh, baby, this lady right here, she don't even know who she fooling with. Baby. I need your corporate information, precious. Hold on, y'all. He gonna get the most time. I don't don't know why this thing don't like me to send it. How do I send this thing? Baby, this woman finna get into a rude awakening. What y'all? Yeah, look like he want. Yeah, you funny. Hold on, but hey. I'm trying to see. Hold on, y'all. Let me get to the net, baby. He got a brain matter and a blood on his shoes. Oh yeah, he in trouble. Him in trouble. Him in trouble, baby. Yeah, I charged this up all day yesterday. What is this? Doug, hold on. It's spinning. Hold on to your love. This one right here. Is this the one where she said, oh yeah, this one right here sealed all them other people trying to be good, stand up. Hey, King of Kapala, where you been?
Yes, my name is Samantha.
Where you been?
S-A-M.
Samantha?
T-H-A.
Samantha right here?
S-P-E-N-C.
Becky with the red hair? Let me cut the light on. Maybe it's a little too
I'm
dark.
an independent forensic consultant.
The independent forensic consultant.
So that means I mostly help.
Can y'all hear Becky with the red hair?
Science process. I focus in the fields of forensic biology or DNA and serology and crime scene reconstruction.
Her right here.
Do you have a scientific background?
I do.
Here I come. I'm gonna show y'all. She sealed the deal for their asses, baby. Especially.
South Carolina in 2009.
Especially.
I went on to work at a genetic center that
Becky with the red hair,
mostly children with
the
rare
auburn hair
diseases. I then accepted a position with the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation as a special agent forensic scientist within the forensic biology unit.
Becky with the red hair.
And then
oh yeah,
I was
he
also
got
a member of the violent crime response team. During that time, I also got a graduate certificate in the field of forensic
oh yeah,
DNA.
Haley. Well yeah, but Haley.
So again,
yeah.
I applied and accepted the position when they offered.
He got
it
his
to
blood,
me.
his brain out of that on his shoes.
All TBI agents go through.
Now, why that
for
fool
both
didn't
to become a
take the
forensic
plea, I don't
scientist and a member of the violent crime scene team.
What would your position be called?
He wanted the
I was a
main
special
one.
agent
It was
forensic
two of them.
scientist.
What did that
Oh, I need to go
So
back.
for the most
Hold
part,
on.
that
I need
involves
to
just
go
working
back
evidence. So
to
when
the
evidence
beginning
comes
so
into
y'all
the
could
lab,
hear
I would accept it from
which
the evidence
ones I
receiving unit,
said
take it back
was
to my
on the
space in the lab,
payroll for
and then
CMG.
perform my testing,
Y'all remember
which
that?
included serology
Do
testing
any
and
of my
DNA
T-sippers
testing.
remember that? Let me see if
While
I
at
can
the
find it.
TBI,
Hold on.
did you get called upon to give testimony in court concerning your findings?
Yes, I did.
It was. I put
For those of us with service animals,
a
preparation
couple
is
of them,
key.
but it was
Ensure
two
your
of them
buddy
for
always
sure.
I believe
I
a little over
said,
20
I
times.
bet you they was a part of the mob. They was working
On the results of DNA testing.
with the old
Yes, it
jicky
did.
wicky judge, the fake judge,
And
you
then,
know.
Did you
Yeah,
did you
remember
eventually
that?
leave the TBI?
I did. I accepted a position over at St. Jude Children's Research Hospital in their shared resource center. So I was helping all of the researchers at St. Jude look at DNA
go in the
analysis.
archives.
And then in 2018, me and another
She
former
sealed it for him,
TBI
y'all.
agent decided to form the company that we
And
have now.
and Haley was
SEP
one.
Forensic
He
Consultants.
was real
where
arrogant,
we
real
offer,
defiant. You
education
know,
and knowledge to
he was
attorneys
acting
in these
kind of
fields.
like quick.
Have you continued
You know,
testifying
kind of
in
like
court
straight
since
drop,
leaving?
like they had somebody
And how often have you done it since you
on the
A
inside.
little over 20 times. I
They
believe
had
this is my
somebody
48th
that was gonna have
opportunity
their
to
back.
testify.
And have you had judges recognize you as an expert in the area of forensic biology?
Haley was definitely one.
Yes, I
Hold on.
have.
Have you ever had a judge refuse to accept you or recognize you as an expert in that field?
No, I have not.
When have you testified on behalf of the state of Tennessee when you were at TBI?
Correct.
And how did you get paid for that?
It was my salary that I got. The state of Tennessee paid for it.
And do you charge now that you're no longer with TBI?
Yes, I take funding from both the state of Tennessee for indigent clients if they do not have the funding, and then I also take private funding from people who can fund it.
And how are you getting paid in this case?
So I'm getting paid through PORAC, which is the legal defense fund for police officers.
Is there any difference in what you do for private individuals and what you do for the government in terms of what you get called on?
No, not really, especially in my testimony portion. The main difference is I don't have a lab right now. It costs millions of dollars to have a DNA lab, so I don't have the equipment to do that. But so I don't touch the evidence and necessarily process it, but I do go through the whole process looking at the data that is produced by the lab.
And do you maintain a resume?
I do.
Your Honor, may I approach? Sure. Let me show you a document and see if you can identify that.
Have you noticed that nobody has yet, well, maybe it's coming, but nobody, no
Yes, sir.
character witnesses has came up for Haley?
I would mark that as the next exhibit.
Yeah, Haley got in trouble and got fired before. He was one of the ones, I think, that got in trouble in the prison. He worked in the prison
So the 6-page
in either Mississippi or Tennessee. Well, for excessive force.
Say 34, Your Honor.
And I think he got in trouble for beating up somebody. Let me double check that. Yeah. And Chief Davis said, oh, perfect.
Now, Ms. Spencer, what did we ask you to do in this situation?
So like in most cases I get called about, it is looking at the data that was produced by TBI or any forensic lab and reviewing it and then determining what conclusions I would come up with and then again helping the attorneys understand
She
what
done went
those
in all in the
conclusions
cracks and crevices of them shoes,
That
baby.
document that's been marked as Exhibit 30 in this case. See if you can identify that for us.
Are you the shoe pappy? Or use the shoe pappy, your DNA. 99.99.99. You the shoe pappy. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
And is that, what is that?
So this is the official forensic biology report issued by the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation.
And are you familiar with the person who actually authored that report?
Yes, I reviewed her work.
And is that somebody you worked with at TBI when you were there?
Yes, since I was in the Memphis lab at the time, she works in the Nashville lab, so we didn't work directly with each other, but we worked together, yes.
Your Honor, at this time, I would tender Ms. Spencer as an expert in forensic biology through DNA analysis.
Your Honor, there's no objection. You said forensic biology through DNA?
Yeah, through DNA.
So,
She the shoe pappy, balls.
What is forensic biology?
So forensic biology can really be broken down into these 5 steps. We have evidence, serology, DNA analysis, interpretation, and then review. So overall, it's the process of finding hopefully a body fluid and then eventually making interpretations on that DNA that was found on that item of evidence.
And so you have the body fluid. Would you know where the body fluid came from?
So yes, once we get into the serology portion, you start looking at specific items of evidence, and then you would be able to identify where you obtained that body fluid from.
Now, what is it that you, as an analyst in this case, consider to be evidence?
So myself, as an independent forensic consultant, I'm mostly considering my evidence to be the documentation and data provided by the forensic lab. So in this case, the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation. On top of all their data and the reports they issued, sometimes I also get things like medical examiner reports, videos from body-worn camera footage or surveillance video, and investigative documentations produced by law enforcement.
And are there other sources of information that you gather other than these documents?
Yeah, again, mostly I'm focusing on the DNA analysis. So that's what my main focus is looking at all of the data produced by the forensic lab.
And that's when you begin once you have all that, that's when you begin your routine that you go through in trying to reach an opinion.
Correct, yes.
So let's just start with serology. Tell us about serology.
So if I was working in the lab and looking at an item of evidence, the first thing I typically would do is to look for a body fluid. And serology is the study of body fluids. In forensics, we mostly focus on blood, semen, and saliva. And the reason we focus on those three body fluids is because we know that they contain a good amount of DNA. So we know that once we go through the DNA process, we have a good chance of getting an informative DNA profile that we can actually make some conclusions from. So there's three general steps that we go through for serology testing. The first is screening, which means we're just looking at this item of evidence either with our naked eye or with some help. And we're just narrowing down some areas that we want to test. We then do a presumptive test, which is just indicating to us that a body fluid is present. And then we can do a confirmatory test, which will confirm that that body fluid is present.
And how do you, is this things that you get from the TBI?
So again, this isn't me doing this right now. This is what I would do when I was in the lab. This is me looking at an actual item of evidence and doing these tests.
But the TBI report would cover all these various findings.
Correct. This is exactly what TBI did in all of the evidence submitted in this.
Oh, 99.99, baby.
So what I use with these results is it helps me indicate or confirm whether or not a body fluid is present. So once I know whether or not a body fluid is present, I'm then going to use that information along with the DNA results to make an overall conclusion using all of the data that we have available.
So once you get the body fluid, then you go to the DNA analysis?
Yes. So once you identify a body fluid on an item of evidence, you're usually going to take a sampling. Now or can we go back one slide? I'm sorry.
Hendrick, summer is here and you've got places to go. She's headed to a golf tournament.
This one's headed to the beach.
And he's headed to a music festival. And they know every good road trip starts right here. At Hendrick Automotive Group.
We'll check your battery, tire pressure, top off your fluids,
Check your cooling system. And do a multi-point inspection.
extending the life of...
One slide, I'm sorry. Sometimes if there's not a body fluid, you can just sample an area for what's called trace DNA. So you didn't find anything, it was negative, so you're going to take a Q-tip and kind of run it over the area and collect any DNA that may be there. So after we have that sample that's either has a body fluid on it or that we're just taking that trace DNA from, we're going to take a cutting from it and then go into our DNA process.
Okay. So now, do I go to
Yes, sir.
the next slide?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
So this is our DNA process. So first, DNA stands for deoxyribonucleic acid. It's the recipe of what makes you, you. So it tells your body everything from your hair and eye color down to your predisposition for diseases. So it is specific to an individual unless you have an identical twin. And we use it in forensics to help identify individuals because it is specific to an individual. So these are the general steps in the DNA process after serology.
So, in extraction, what happens?
So extraction is the first step of the DNA process. This is the step that we've found that body fluid, or we've taken a sample from that item of evidence, and we're now going to take that cutting, put it in a tube, and what's called lyse, or open up any cells present, cells such as epithelial cells, skin cells, break those open and pull out the DNA and clean away any cellular debris left over. So we eventually end up with a tube that it just has DNA in it.
So if we were there at the TBI and we looked at the results of that extraction, what would we see in your hand?
It would just look like water.
Okay.
Yeah.
In a small test tube?
Yeah, in a test tube that's about this big, it would just look like water.
And is that all the DNA that you have to work with in any particular testing?
Yes, when we do that extraction step right there, that's the DNA that we're going to work with for the rest of the time, and that's what we've taken from that item of evidence.
So do you ever find yourself having to monitor how much you actually use for one test or another to make sure you have plenty of the evidence?
Yeah, so part of the process of extraction is making decisions on how much water or chemicals you're going to put that DNA in. But through the process, we have specific amounts that we use through that, so we're not using it all up. As a forensic scientist, my goal is not to consume a sample. I want to make sure there's some left over, either if I make a mistake or if somebody else needs to process that sample in the future. So yes, we use a small amount every time and don't use it up.
So after extraction, what happens next?
So after extraction, we have quantitation, and that kind of sounds like what it is we're trying to determine how much DNA is there, the quantity of DNA present in our tube. So not only does it give us the total amount of DNA present in that sample, but it also gives us the amount of male DNA in that sample, a male to female ratio, and a degradation index. The degradation index just tells us how much the DNA may be damaged.
And what are you looking for with the quantification?
So the main point of quantification is that it really helps with the downstream application, steps 3 and 4, because we're going to target a specific amount of DNA to go into those steps. It also gives us an idea, again, of how much DNA is present in this sample. Again, if we're looking at our serology results and it's indicating that a body fluid is present, I'm going to look at those serology results and see if that's consistent with a body fluid.
And the next step is amplification?
Yes, so amplification is a fancy science word for making copies. So what we're doing in this step is we're making copies of specific areas on the DNA that we've extracted and figured out how much DNA we have.
You mean like 5 or 6 copies?
We're making millions of copies, and we're making millions of copies of what's called short tandem repeats. These are those specific areas we're going to focus on, and they're areas on the DNA that we know just repeat over and over again. So we make millions and millions of copies of those, and it's essentially just like you taking a piece of paper and copying it on a copier. Just going to continue to make copies of it.
How do you know when to stop?
There's validations are done, and again, we're targeting a specific amount of DNA. So we know that this amount of DNA takes this long to make this many copies of. And we have set protocols of how we're going to make copies of the DNA.
And the next step is separation?
Yes, this is our final step in the DNA process. So, like I said, we just made millions of copies of different areas of those short tandem repeats on the DNA. So now we have to separate them. So we separate them based on size and charge. And at the end of this process, this instrument here will take basically a picture of the DNA, which will be what we use during interpretation. And that picture is basically, you can go to the next slide. It's a bunch of peaks and numbers that we use. And these, let me get this out. Can't see it. Those boxes on the top you see that are in green and yellow, those labeled ones, those are all the specific areas that we made copies of, and those are what we're going to compare. So those peaks and numbers below, that's what we use to make a comparison.
So you sort of overlay on the comparison?
Somewhat, yes.
And so what's next?
So what's next is the interpretation step. I failed to mention that we have kind of two sets of samples when we're doing DNA analysis. We have those evidentiary samples, things that came from the crime scene or from individuals involved in the incident. But we also collect standards from people. Standards, if you've watched any crime show, you've seen somebody take a big Q-tip and run it on the inside of their cheeks. That's a buccal standard.
And y'all know I'm looking for that video where I told y'all who was going to be the dirty one. Y'all do know I'm looking for it, don't you?
So our interpretation step first starts out with ensuring that
Don't you, D-Money?
well. We look at controls that we ran in our sample and make sure that everything performed
You know
and
I'm
had
looking
good
for it.
quality. Once we do that, we're then going to look at each of those DNA profiles, those peaks and heights or peaks and numbers
Yeah, I
that
know
we
I'm
just
looking for it.
looked at, and start interpreting. And how we interpret it is we basically start describing that profile. So do we have a full, partial, or limited profile? Meaning, do we have data at all of those locations we made copies of, or are we missing data at some places? We also try and determine how many people are present in this sample. A number of evidentiary samples that we work with in forensics have more than one person in them, which is called a mixture. So we determine whether or not it's a single source profile or a mixture, and then how many people are present in there. And then finally, sometimes we can also determine a major and minor contributor. A major contributor is somebody who is showing up more strongly in that profile, and a minor contributor is the opposite, showing up much less in that profile.
Spencer, I want to hand you Exhibit 30, and you're talking about getting these profiles. Could you read some of the descriptions of the profiles and explain those to us based on what you just said?
Yeah, so an example, and we'll look at this in a little bit, an example of an interpretation would be the DNA profile is consistent with a mixture of at least 5 individuals, including at least 1 male. And then we have some that also say the major contributor matches a specific person, and then the minor contributor profile is inconclusive. So that's kind of the terminology that we're using in the reports once we've done this. And the way that we eventually get to is those standards that I just talked about. That is when we're going to be able to say that a match is present. We're going to take that standard of that individual and compare it to that profile that we've already made conclusions on from the item of evidence and see if that person is a contributor. And that's what we call the binary method, because basically we're saying, is this person in this profile or are they not?
Becky with the red hair, she seals it, baby.
The interpretation process.
Yes, other than documenting it in a report, which is exactly what TBI did.
Okay. And is that where you get to the review process, or?
TBI.
Yes, sir. Yes. So once a scientist who has done that whole process, done their interpretations, put their conclusions in a report, they're then going to hand off this report, this draft report, to 2 other people. And this is the review process. We have a technical review and an administrative review, and they sound exactly like what they are. Technical, we're going to go through what did we follow our manual and our protocols that we have in the lab? Do I agree with your conclusions, the data that you produced? And then our administrative review is exactly what it sounds like. Did you spell everything correctly? Did you dot all your I's, cross all your T's? All of that good stuff.
So basically, did we ask you to review the review?
Yes, I kind of like to say that what I do is like a super technical review of the case. I go in and look at it again. I try and look at it how I would if I was a technical reviewer, but I'm usually also incorporating other information into it, and that's why I kind of call it a super technical review.
So are we ready now to go into your examination of the evidence you got from TBI?
Yes.
Why would this guy get new permanent teeth in 24
'Cause
hours?
he need
Instead
them.
of placing you in temporary teeth, you get your permanent teeth in.
Your examination of the
Hey, David. What's up?
Yes. So this is going to be
Oh, I need to,
pictures from
hold on.
TBI's analysis
Let me-
along with their results, and then
Let's go to,
yeah,
so
and
let's
we'll
talk
look
about
at
the
this as we go
shoes.
through. So the first exhibit we'll be looking at is exhibit 1A and 1B, and that's Mr. Martin's
I need
boots.
this
You can
on
see
this
1A
video. It was on
is
the
left
one
boot,
earlier,
and
but I
1B
need it
is
on
right.
this one as well.
So,
What sealed the
like we
deal?
talked
Why
about
I'm looking
before, the first thing TBI
for
did
my
was that
evidence.
serology process. So they're going to screen it and then try to identify any body fluids on these two boots. The body fluid they're focusing on in this case is blood. So how they did that is they used a presumptive test, which is on the slide is TMB&P, which is tetromethylbenzidine and phenolphthalein.
Let me ask you something. On the slide, it looks like the boots have been sectioned off. Is that something? Tell us, what is that?
Yes, so what the analyst did is she was testing these specific areas to try and narrow down where the blood was. So she's focusing on the same areas, and she focused on the same areas for all of the boots that she processed in this case. So you'll see similar areas circled on all of the boots we look at. So
Baby,
she
sealed the
circles
deal
these
for their
areas
asses.
because not only did she do the serology, but she took those samples like we talked about, the trace samples, and they went on to DNA analysis too. So the entirety of the left boot there, 1A, was TMB&P negative, which means it's negative for the presence of blood. And then if we can go to the next slide, this is 1B, so the right boot. This area that you can see there that has that blue arrow, that was TMB&P positive. So again, that's a presumptive test for the presence of blood.
Just for the record, the boots we're talking about right now are Emmett Martin's boots, is that correct?
That is correct.
That's exhibit 1.
Yes, yep. So again, all three areas on each of these boots were swabbed for DNA analysis and taken into that process. Okay, so we'll have 3 samples per boot that we'll look at eventually with our DNA testing.
Next slide.
Yes, sir. So this next slide is basically the same of what we looked at for Mr. Martin's boots, except these are Mr. Haley's boots. So again, we have 2A is the left boot, 2B is the right boot. We have those areas denoted again that she focused her testing on. And again, we have 3 areas per boot. Again, the left boot tested negative for TMB&P, so it is negative for blood. And then the next slide. The right boot tested positive in that area, presumptively for the presence of blood on Mr. Haley's right boot.
So where'd you go from there?
So what TBI does next is they're going to move into the DNA process. So those samples that they took from those areas of swabbing with their Q-tip, they're going to take a cutting and then go in through our 4 steps that we talked about: extraction, quantitation, amplification, and separation.
And is this the results on the screen now of Martin's boots?
Yes, sir. So after going through that process, we again are going to get those DNA profiles that I showed you of each of those samples that we talked about, those electropherograms that are just peaks and numbers. And these are the interpretations of TBI. So when they sat down and looked at these DNA profiles that they generated from those exhibits, those items and those samples, this is their interpretation.
And what was that interpretation?
So for Mr. Martin's boots, again, looking at the left boot, which was negative for the presence of blood, that area 1 is a mixture of at least 5 individuals, including a male, and it was inconclusive. So typically when we're doing interpretation using that binary method that I talked about, whether or not somebody is included or for me as an analyst to try and do any interpretation
How you been, David?
of that, because it's what we call a nasty mixture. There's just a lot of people, and it's really hard to pull specific profiles out and determine who is really present. So what happens with that is it becomes, we have at least 5 individuals. I know a male is there, but I can't do any more interpretation of it, so it's inconclusive.
In your experience, is it surprising to find a lot of different people's DNA on a boot?
So shoes in general usually produce mixture profiles. If you think about your shoes, you're walking around in your home, anywhere, you're collecting DNA from your family members on your feet, putting it in your shoes and on your shoes if they're sitting around the door. But we also have to take into consideration what these boots are worn. These are police officers' boots that they're wearing out to crime scenes, interactions with a number of individuals every night. So the idea that they have a lot of other people present on their boots is not really odd.
So that number is something you would expect?
Yeah, yes.
And go on with your conclusions on the Martin boots.
Yes, so sample number 2 is a mixture of at least 3 individuals, including a male, and it again is inconclusive. And a sample can also be inconclusive, even though I said it's 3 to 4 people we're really looking at. We can't really start breaking down that mixture. Sometimes you just don't have a lot of DNA, so it's not a really good profile that you can be confident in to make good interpretations on. And then 3, we have a mixture of at least 3 individuals, including a male, and the major is consistent with Mr. Martin, and the minor is inconclusive. So that's, again, like we talked about, we have that major contributor that's showing up more strongly than another individual or any other individuals present in it. And it's Mr. Martin, which we expect Mr. Martin to be on his own shoes.
And what about the right boot?
So the right boot, for sample 1, we have a mixture of at least 2 individuals, including a male. That's inconclusive. And then for 2 and 3, we have the same results. We have a mixture of at least 2 individuals, including a male, and the major matches Mr. Tyre Nichols, and the minor is inconclusive. That's for sample 2 and 3. And if we remember back to our serology results, that 3rd sample on that boot tested presumptively positive for blood.
And so that's all the conclusions on Mr. Martin's boots?
Correct,
Okay,
yes.
so let's go to Mr. Haley.
So again,
Mr. Haley.
almost the exact same. Left boot, we know, is presumptively negative for the presence of blood. On sample 1, we have a mixture of at least 7 individuals, including a male. That is inconclusive. On 2, we have a mixture of at least 4 individuals, including a male. The major is consistent with Mr. Haley, which once again, it's his boots. Minor is inconclusive. And the 3rd sample is a mixture of at least 3 individuals, including a male, and that again is inconclusive.
So what did you draw from this analysis of Haley's boots?
So at this point, we don't have a lot of information. We just know that Mr. Haley is present on his boots. So once we get to the right boot, though, the first sample is at least 6 individuals, including a male, and again is inconclusive. Sample 2, we have a mixture of at least 3 individuals, including a male, and then the major matches an unknown male. And what we mean by an unknown male is that all the standards that we used in the case that we compared the evidence to, that profile doesn't match anybody. So it's an unknown person that we don't know who it is, okay? And then the 3rd sample, which again, it tested presumptively positive for the presence of blood during our serology testing. It was a mixture of at least 4 individuals, including a male, and it was also inconclusive.
So where do we go from there?
Why are women everywhere choosing Abby X, the new tummy tuck alternative? I got the tummy tuck result.
Individuals, including a male, and it was also inconclusive.
So where do we go from there?
So based on these results and after I looked at them, I decided that we could possibly employ a relatively newer technique within the field of forensic biology, but not new in the world of science, and it's called probabilistic genotyping. And the main point of probabilistic genotyping is to help deconvolute or demix these nasty mixtures. So it's going to use science and a computer to do this instead of me as an analyst doing it.
How common is the use of this probabilistic genotyping?
So it's becoming much more common in the last couple of years. There's really 2 companies out there that have probabilistic genotyping software. The one that we used is called Cybergenetics. The software itself is called TrueAllele, which you'll see in a minute. But what they have the software and they work the software.
TrueAllele, on pinpoint.
Yeah, so that would be the Pepsi. The Coke version would be what's called Star Mix, and you can actually purchase Star Mix and bring it into your lab and use it yourself. So more and more labs are starting to bring probabilistic genotyping online within their own labs.
Is that very expensive?
Yes, it is very expensive.
So which one did you use?
I use the TrueAllele from Cybergenetics.
And is this sort of a form of artificial intelligence?
No, it's using math for the most part. So what it's using from the TBI, I sent the data files that produce that DNA picture, that electropharogram. Those data files were sent to Cybergenetics. So they use all the data within those data files to do their interpretation. So their software uses statistics, biological modeling to use all of the data and to make more of an interpretation or to be able to better deconvolute and unmix those profiles.
Does the FBI use this type of software, I guess?
Yes. The FBI, I think, has brought on Star Mix, so the Coke version of this rather than the Pepsi. Again, that can be brought into your lab, but TrueAllele has been used in a number of states and a number of cases to give more information, including in the state of Tennessee.
And how many times have you used this in the past?
I believe this is my first time using it for a case. I have done training through them. And I've also done training through Star Mix, so I'm very familiar with this type of procedure and this software.
And how did you decide to use it in this case?
So, because we were focusing on Mr. Haley's boots, what we decided was that we were going to take the
focusing
data
on Mr. Haley
produced by TBI from all 6 samples, or I'm sorry, 12 samples, right? 3 from each boot. And send that off to Cybergenetics or TrueAllele for them to use in their software.
And next slide.
Yes, sir. So what TrueAllele did was they did a preliminary screening test, and that's what these results show on this PowerPoint. So it's basically just a table up there, and if we just to explain the table a little bit, we have all of our item numbers. So we see we have 2A is our left boot, 2B is our right boot. We have 1, 2, 3 samples for each one. We then have the comparison to Mr. Haley's standard, and we have the comparison to Mr. Nichols' standard. And then they also, because we had that unknown male that was on the boot, that was also used as a standard in this case as well. Down at the bottom, we have a table that represents kind of what these numbers that you'll see in the table. So remember when we were talking about interpretation, we are either including someone or saying it's a match, or we're saying it's not a match and they could be excluded. So that's what these numbers are representing. These numbers are actually the number of zeros given within the probabilistic statistics that they produce.
We're looking for homeowners within valid states to test our new 24-hour bathroom remodel service.
Zeros given within the probabilistic statistics that they produce. If there's the blank over on the right-hand side, as you can see, blank means no statistical support. So if we look at the comparison to Mr. Haley, we can see that in most areas we have strong support for him being present on his boot. Again, he should be present on his boot. That's not surprising, right? So next, the comparison is to Mr. Nichols. So we have on sample A2, we have a 1, which is inclusionary. On then have to take that value and divide it by 4. Those results, it's not clear that it is definitely blood from that sample. It could also be transfer from, say, epithelial cells or your skin cells.
Epithelial, that's skin cells?
Yes, that's skin cells, and you have epithelial cells all over your body, and you would expect them to be, even on your clothing, of course, on your skin as well.
And
Becky with the red hair.
The 12 times more DNA present on the Martin boot. What do you make of that?
So again, because of that amount of DNA that we have, it is more consistent with being blood. Again, we do have that presumptive test. We don't have any confirmatory tests. But again, the main point of doing serology is to try and identify that body fluid because we know those body fluids have a good amount of DNA. 2.76 is a good amount of DNA that I would be confident I'm going to get a good informative profile as I was going through my process.
So as between these two contributors, Mr. Haley and Mr. Martin, what is more likely to have occurred on the scene based upon your DNA analysis?
So I think that based on DNA analysis, it provides information on the strike that Mr. Haley made was not necessarily to an area that had blood on it. So this could have been his torso, it could have been his clothing, it could have been something of that area.
And Mr. Martin?
That, again, because it being that high amount of DNA, it is a major contributor of Mr. Nichols that is more consistent with blood. So it would be in an area where blood was present, such as his face.
Have your opinions today been within a reasonable degree of certainty within your field?
It's based on my expert experience and opinion, yes.
Your Honor, at this point, I would like to mark as an exhibit the graph that Ms. Spencer shared with us that was previously on the screen.
We'll go next to the DNA graph as exhibit 35.
What time is it? 7:30. Oh, look at him.
Next in line would be Mr. Demetric. I have no questions, Your Honor. All right, Ms. Barrett? No, Your Honor. Stay.
I'll be back with Carmelo. I'll be back with Carmelo Anthony. Carmelo.
I am not a doctor. It's okay. Yes, good morning.
I'm actually an expert in probabilistic genotypes.
Awesome.